Who are we going to do? Where is he? Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. All right. Thank you for being here. We'll call this meeting to order. Apologize for the 5-minute delay. We were tied up in closed session on what we obviously consider a very important city business. So please, we try very hard to get out here at 6:30 and would appreciate if you'd understand that once in a while things get delayed just a bit. So we do apologize for being here at 6:35. Okay, closed session reports.
Nothing to report, Mr. Mayor.
Chief Livingston, would you leave us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Someday.
We have roll call, please.
Yes. Councilmember Litzter.
Here.
Councilmember Luevanos.
Here.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Judge.
Here.
Mayor Mashburn.
Here. Everybody get an opportunity to review the agenda. Any changes? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'll note that we have a supplemental on agenda item 4A, some correspondence received after publication of the agenda. They are before you tonight and in the notebook in the back of the room.
Thank you.
I move that all resolutions and ordinances presented tonight be read in title only and all further reading be waived. Second.
Motion and second. Call for the vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, does anybody have a conflict with any of tonight's agenda? Seeing none, hearing none, we'll move forward.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the next item on the agenda is 1D1, a presentation of a 25-year service award to Police Officer Michelle Savage, and Chief Livingstone is here for this presentation.
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn and City Council members. Tonight, I have the pleasure of recognizing Officer Michelle Savage for 25 years of service to the city of Simi Valley. And she has already worked her way down here. You can stand. Officer Savage began her law enforcement career with the Los Angeles Police Department in 1989. During her 5 years there, she worked as a patrol officer at the Devonshire Division and as an accident investigator at the Valley Traffic Division. Officer Savage joined the Simi Valley Police Department on February 8, 1995, and was assigned to the patrol unit before serving as a DARE officer for 12 years. She currently works as a day watch patrol officer and is a member of the bicycle patrol team. During her 25 years with the department, Officer Savage has served as an Explorer Advisor, a member of the Recognition Committee, a captain of the department's Baker to Vegas running team, as well as a department liaison with the Special Olympics, helping to organize events like the Torch Run and Tip-A-Cop. Officer Savage is here tonight with her husband, Chris, their children, Morgan and Casey, mother, Shirley, brother, Rob, sister-in-law, Emily, and their grandchildren, Destiny and Caden. Her sons, Matt and Jordan, could not be here tonight. Please join me in congratulating Officer Michelle Savage on 25 years of extraordinary service to the city of Simi Valley and thanking her family for their support.
First off, anybody here, we have all great people here, but police officers don't always deal with just great people. And they sometimes have to, there's very few in this city, but once in a while they have to go out and take care of the other end of things. And to do this for 25 years, to go on traffic accidents, to go to people's homes when their children have been hurt or maybe a loved one has passed, on and on and on. 25 years of that. That's huge. And I'd like to invite the council down to help me say congratulations and let you say what you want. And don't give any tickets to anybody here tonight. We don't want to leave here in a bad mood. So with that, Michelle, this is what makes Simi Valley great.
I was leaving. Ah, got it.
All the good stuff the chief's going to do.
I'd like to present you with your certificate here honoring your 25 years of service with the city of Simi Valley. And because it's your 25th year, you also received this member of the Washington City of Simi Valley as well. So,
Wow, it's a packed house. I don't think I've ever seen this many people. But I know it's for a good cause. And then obviously part of the Islamic community, I have one of my former DARE students that already came up to me and said hello. So yeah, super special. I was born and raised here. So going to LA to learn the job and coming back, there's something special about serving the community that you grew up in. And I also raised my children in this community and they went to school here. So there's a lot of us with our department that actually live here. And so, you know, the level of service that you get sometimes is it's a personal interest. And so we have a great department and I work around a lot of great guys. And it's been a wonderful career. I feel so blessed. I just got a few more left and I'm done. So thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor, there are no speaker cards submitted for item 2 on the agenda. That's public statements on appointments, special presentations, and informational reports. And item 3A, appointments. Actually, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, there are no items under 3A, appointments. 3B, special presentations, and agenda item 3C, informational reports. Our next item on the agenda is a public hearing, item 4A. This is the time and place is set for a public hearing on the consideration of matters as presented on this agenda. Let the record show that due notice was given as required by law, and an affidavit to this effect is on file in the office of the city clerk. The reports of the city staff relating to these matters shall be made a part of the record of this meeting. Speakers during public hearings shall limit their comments to matters relevant to the item on the agenda and may be ruled out of order if comments are unrelated to the item. If you challenge in court any of the City Council decisions made here tonight, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at this public hearing. The time within which judicial review must be sought is governed by California Code of Civil Procedure, Section 1094.6. Agenda item 4A is a continued public hearing to consider General Plan Amendment Pre-Screening Review, GPPS-2019-02, and Stratus Peros and Naren Gunasekara are here for this presentation. Mr. Mayor, you may begin your public hearing.
Okay, I think we covered what this is, a general plan amendment, pre-screening, GPPS 2019-02. We request to change the general plan land use designation from neighborhood park to general commercial for a .64 acre parcel located at 4343 Township Avenue. Are there any ex parte communications to report? Seeing none? Okay. I'd like to have an oral report on this, Mr. Stratus.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor Mashburn and members of the council. Tonight is a general plan pre-screening request, and for those in the audience or for those who don't quite know what this is, this application just came in a couple of months ago, and we're bringing it to you tonight. The City Council is not making a final action or determination tonight. This is a request to change the general plan land use designation. If the council does recommend this go forward, the applicant would then submit a formal application, at which time this will be subject to all the necessary studies and reviews that would be in accordance with this type of application. So that's the overview I want to give. Tonight, making the staff presentation is Assistant Planner Narun Gunasekar will make the presentation tonight.
Mayor, council members, good evening. The applicant Green Crescent of Simi Valley submitted this pre-screening request for City Council's authorization to proceed with the formal general plan amendment. It is important to note that the City Council is not approving a project tonight. This hearing will allow the City Council to give feedback and direction to the applicant on their request. As shown in this aerial image, the 0.64 acre parcel highlighted in yellow is adjacent to the 1.95 acre El Patio Plaza, which is developed with a variety of commercial uses. Houghton Schreiber Park is to the north and the west, and Township Avenue to the south, and single-family residences beyond Township Avenue. The building on the site was an American Legion post and dates from 1966. In 1991, it became the site of the Simi Valley Bible Church. The applicants bought the building in 2012 and are looking to add classrooms and a library. If the City Council supports the pre-screening request to change the land use designation from neighborhood park to general commercial, the general plan amendment application will be filed together with a zone change and a modification to the existing conditional use permit. Here we can see the conceptual site plan. It envisions a new building occupying largely the same footprint of the existing building, with the addition of a second floor on a portion of the building to accommodate the library and classrooms. The worship area would be roughly the same. I believe currently it's 1,600 square feet and proposed is 1,580 square feet. The potential general plan amendment will allow the applicant the option of looking at options to update the building while ensuring it meets current codes and development standards, including fire department and building and safety requirements. In Chapter 3 of the General Plan, Table LU1, the General Plan Zoning Consistency Matrix, you can see highlighted in green the neighborhood park land use designation, which is consistent with the park zone. The medium density designation is compatible with a variety of residential zones such as RM and RL. As you can see in these exhibits, the site and the neighborhood and the park around it is designated as neighborhood park, while it is zoned residential medium. You can see the park outlined in green on the left. Outlined in red on top of the CPD parcel is the current fire department location, which again has a general commercial use, land use designation, but is zoned residential. Again, an incompatible land use designation and zoning. The criteria for a general plan amendment, particularly the pre-screening, is that whether there is reasonable potential for being compatible with existing and proposed land uses in the area. The compatibility with the general commercial CPD zoned lot directly abutting the site to the east meets this requirement. There needs to be the reasonable potential to be compatible with the goals of the general plan. Specifically, we found that policies LU 21.7, assembly facilities, and LU 16.3, religious institutions, which encourage and regulate the development of assembly facilities and religious institutions to ensure compatibility with adjoining uses and prevent impacts to adjoining neighborhoods. The final two criteria, which are combined in one point here, It has to be unlike any other amendment request in the area within the last 12 months and not located where a newly adopted policy has been in effect for less than 12 months. And it meets this requirement as well. Staff recommends that the City Council authorize GPPS-2019-02 for further processing as a formal general plan amendment to change the land use designation of the 0.64 acre parcel from neighborhood park to general commercial to allow the redevelopment of the existing religious facility with directions to include the concurrent filing of an application for a zone change and a modification to the existing conditional use permit. This concludes our presentation, and we are available for questions.
Thank you. Questions of staff? Council members?
Yes, I'm sorry, if I may, Mayor. So this was taken over by the American Legion in 1966. And then after that, it was a religious facility. And what year was that?
1991.
1991. So it's been used as a religious institution since that time, so for over almost 30 years. Okay, and were there any issues then, or how was it used as, how was it switched from American Legion to the, I'm sorry, the name of the church was the Bible, Religious Bible?
Simi Valley Bible Church.
Simi Valley Bible Church.
Yes.
Was there a conditional use permit then, or how was it transitioned from the American Legion use to the religious institution use?
Yes, the city issued CUP-S-400.
Okay, I'm not quizzing you on that, just to let you know.
That CUP was to allow the church use to replace the American Legion back in 1991.
Okay, so it's been used for almost 30 years as a religious institution of some point or another. Have there been complaints before, in the 29 years or in the time that it was used for the Bible Church? I'm sorry, I'm screwing up the name. I'm so sorry.
Simi Valley Bible Church.
Simi Valley Bible Church.
Not that we're aware of.
Okay, so there were no complaints ever filed when it was Simi Valley Bible Church with parking or any of those issues? Or
As this project just came in a couple of weeks ago, so what we do, if we go forward, we'll do a further evaluation of all the history when we bring it to a formal public hearing.
Okay, and there is across the street, I believe, I'm trying to, is there another religious institution across the street or adjacent on the same street on Township? Is that a daycare or a church, or what is it? Because I thought it was a church.
On Township.
Want to go back to the area?
There is a religious facility to the south and to the west on Township, yes.
Okay, so this is an area that's, amenable to the religious institutions. It's been there for a while.
Yeah, this is a residentially zoned area to the south and the park area, but mostly residential all around the property site. And that's we allow religious facilities, churches, mosques, anything like that in 80% of our zones, anywhere, mostly in all our residential zones and a wide variety of our commercial industrial zones.
Okay, so that's typical then. So this is not something that's out of the ordinary or...
The best way I could say what's being requested tonight, the applicant needs to make some significant changes to this property. They need to demolish the existing building to construct a new building, thereby amending the conditional use permit. The first finding I have to make is the request consistent with the general plan and the zoning? And in this case, because the general plan has a park designation, it really shouldn't be that. If anything, it's a mapping error. Maybe it should have been something we corrected over the years when we updated our land use maps and our zoning maps. And so this is kind of an applicant-initiated way to fix our mapping for this property, and also to result in a good zoning for the site that will allow for a compliant development that meets the setbacks, the parking, the other lot configuration requirements we have for a church.
So granting this amendment would help fix the issue that we have yet to do.
Yeah, it was this close to being done at the staff level, but because of that park designation, we brought it here tonight so we can fix that part of the map.
Okay, and there's no way that this could be park area.
Yeah,
It's 0.64 acres, and I saw the requirement was like, 2,500 to 3,500.
Yeah, this building's been there essentially before the city was a city. It predates incorporation. And so it really wasn't ever part of the park in that way. It's been a assembly building. over the years.
Okay.
And this is, again, a good way to, it's going to be, has non-conforming status, and when we demolish it, we lose it, but this is a way to make it compliant with all the rules by changing the general plan and eventually the zoning.
Okay, and will it provide the same amount of parking, more parking, equal parking?
Yeah, the parking requirement is based on the size of the assembly area, and the current building's assembly area is likely going to be larger than what's being proposed. What's being upgraded will be the restrooms, there'll be addition of a library, there'll be classrooms, but the amount of people that we base on the assembly area is essentially the same size or a little bit less than what's currently out there.
Okay, so it's not adding
No.
more people, okay. And I know Mayor Mashburn and I had attended previously an event there, and we was kind of on the outside of the porch, and they, they were very kind and said, we wish it was indoors. And I know they had, mentioned upgrading, that, in the future they would be able to upgrade. But I just wanted to establish the pattern of the use of this plot of land in the community and what its purpose has been served for. Just one more question, and I don't know if you have this data or not because it predates the city. Were there ever any complaints? And I know the city was smaller then, but when it was used for the American Legion up until 1999? No
Not that we're
complaints.
aware of at this time, but we could look into that if we bring it back.
Okay, right. And, I'm sorry, one more question, I'm sorry. Inquisitive teacher's mind. They have a security guard there, is that correct, at the mosque?
I am not sure. Sorry, I'm not sure.
Okay, okay, just to make sure. Okay, thank you.
Okay, other questions?
I do. So thank you, and I appreciate that Mr. Paris visited with me earlier, but to answer some of my many questions. But I want to make sure I'm understanding exactly what is transpiring. Basically, this area has been zoned as a park since the general plan was put into place. However, this has been used as an assembly or gathering place since its existence. So basically, the zoning is out of sync with what the general plan initially has it to be. Would that be accurate to state that?
Yeah, the correct way to say it is that there's a general plan land use designation, which again, the general plan land use, that's the blueprint for the city, how we're going to grow over the next 20 years. That designation is neighborhood park. The zoning designation for this property is residential medium. The neighborhood park land use and the residential medium zoning are not consistent with each other. And so the goal here is to make it consistent by changing the park designation to perhaps commercial in the zoning commercial or some other combination thereof.
Gotcha. And as I understand from my discussion with you, whether it is zoned residential or whether it is zoned commercial, it still allows for a church or a mosque to be housed there, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And so by asking for a commercial zoning, that in effect makes the parking possibly a better situation. Is that accurate
Yeah,
to state?
when we looked at this map, the one on the right, you see the red is general commercial. So we're trying to change the color of the church, the mosque site, to match the adjacent property. We didn't want to create a spot zone of something different. We thought it was the most logical, reasonable request, and it achieves the goal of the applicant to provide for the use that's intended for.
Gotcha. And personally, I'm very much in favor of this being a religious house of worship. And so are we able to condition it with this, if we were to go forward with the general plan amendment? I realize this is a pre-screening. Can we condition it that this has to be used for a house of worship?
If the city council would like to make through the consensus of the council, make a motion, include that in their motion, we could put that in the formal application request. It's not something that happens tonight, but as we bring it back to you as a formal application, it'll eventually go to the neighborhood council, planning commission, ultimately all the way back here to the city council. And that could be a consideration to put a condition of zoning on the zone change to allow for, or to specify that this is intended for a church use only.
Gotcha.
Or again, a religious facility only.
Good. Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
May I ask a question?
Of course.
In looking at the diagram, we're turning the building completely, right? Okay,
No, if we go.
we're turning it,
So what actually what you're
currently it's east and west.
Yeah, the building is essentially going to be in the same footprint as the
Right.
as the existing building. It's really not changing in its
Okay, then I was looking at it
alignment.
turned
Yeah.
sideways.
So, and this photo, Township Avenue, is on the bottom of each screen.
Okay, and the actual footprint is not that much larger, we're just going up 2 stories,
Correct.
correct? Okay, and that building does need to be replaced. I agree with that 100%. I also saw, when I was driving up there, the fire department's going to require a turnaround, so for safety reason, that's a good thing. But they also have a parking lot that goes right into the park district also. Do we have a shared parking arrangement with the park district for that property, or could that be done?
Yeah, that's the intent here, to preserve the existing driveways and that shared reciprocal access between the properties. People from the park will park on, park uses will park on the Moss site when their events occur where they need overflow parking, and vice versa. So we do have both shared access and shared parking anticipated with any future development.
Okay. The shared parking works well in different areas. I've seen that. It also, scheduling and, piggybacking events also. I know I was involved with the girls softball when they were building their fields, and because there's not enough parking, you have to alternate the games so that people are coming and going at different times to keep the flow even. So that's something that could possibly be looked at between the mosque, the park, not so much the school, the hours are set, but there's a baseball field there. And that's a small league, I believe. I think they have about 250 kids. Mm-hmm. So that might be something that they could work well together on that too, is kind of alternating the scheduling for the benefit of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Councilmember Judge, any questions? Okay. Questions I have. You said it was assembly for many, many years now. Was it assembly when it was American Legion? That would be an assembly also, correct?
Correct.
Okay. If we move forward with this, is there conditions that could be put on by your office as far as helping, if there is? Do we need a traffic study? And if we did, then could conditions be such that we help with the traffic flow?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this project.
And rather than say traffic flow, I'd rather say traffic safety.
Yeah.
Okay, because I know there's a lot of children that use that area.
One thing I've heard from the community thus far is there's a lot of concern about the traffic conflicts in the early morning with the school drop-off and pickup, the use at the park, the mosque's use of the property, and the other school to the north even. And so any project that gets developed here, we will do some sort of traffic assessment. At one level, there's like a traffic memo. The next level up is a whole traffic study. We might look at a parking study as well. And so that'll be something we evaluate during the environmental review process and all the other formal aspects of a formal application.
Okay, I'll come back to that potentially. Parking-wise, I guess the square footage of the building currently versus new.
So the existing building's about 3,000 square feet. The conceptual idea is about a 6,000 square foot building. However, parking is based on the size of the assembly or sanctuary area for a religious facility, and that is essentially going to stay the same based on some of the concept plans we've worked out with the applicant. So we're not expecting a notable increase. One of the things that this project would achieve are better restroom facilities, which is something the current building significantly lacks. And so this is an important part of the culture to have the adequate restroom and bathing facilities.
So is it fair to say, adding that second story, you're really not adding a lot of additional bodies?
We're anticipating classrooms and library and office, but not something that generates beyond the main assembly area. That's the same way we look at all churches, all religious facilities. We base parking on assembly area only.
Okay, another question, probably not a real popular one. Hypothetically, I hope that's recorded. This is not approved. And now you have that piece of property. Is that the kind of piece of property where with what we're dealing with housing and what have you, a apartment complex could be put on that piece of property?
Hypothetically, no. The site has a general plan land use designation of park, and we don't allow for that type of residential development on a park site. So again, anything that happens here is going to have to fix this mapping error, if you will.
Okay.
Actually, let me take it back. It has a residential medium zoning, but typically one of the first findings I need to make is it consistent with the general plan and the zoning? And there's this inherent inconsistency between the two, and that's what I'm trying to fix, or what we're trying to fix with this general plan pre-screening
So
request.
where I'm going with that is, if I was the owner of the property and I decided to sell it, and the new buyer could come in and say, hey, I want to do residential high density.
That's going to trigger a plan development permit or a conditional use permit, and one of the first findings I have to make is it consistent with the general plan? And right now, that existing neighborhood park designation prevents me from making that finding.
However, what we've seen with the state,
Yeah. The state says if, for example, Tapo and Alamo is in our general plan as a site intended for housing development. It's an opportunity zone. The city council, the community agreed to that sort of stipulation. The city council and community did not agree to that stipulation on this property. It's not intended for future housing. Not every area of the city is intended for intense development like that.
And can I ask a question in line with
Sure.
what you're asking? So if we condition this to be a use for religious purposes, even if the property were to be sold and it's now commercial, they would be required to either build a house of worship or use it for worship or come back to us to get a change. To make
That's
that
correct.
happen.
That's one way to deal with it. The hypothetical is that just today, by its existing designations, it's not intended for residential development. If this project ever goes forward, it's not like it's going to become residential development. Under your scenario, if we did make the changes and put a condition of zoning to limit it just to a religious facility, that zoning would be in place to, create that intended consequence, to limit to that one use.
Okay.
okay, any other questions at this time?
I just wanted to clarify, to my knowledge, and I know this area very well because my son actually played in that little league, that's Santa Susana Boys Baseball League. So I've interacted with Valley View Township, the Parks and Rec, even my kids went to summer school there, the mosque, and the baseball league. And some of these activities don't all take place at the same time. Is that correct? Right. Just like, St. Peter Claver has, 5 different masses. So even though the designation for parking is for the worship space, not everyone is there at the same time, right? Because there's different services at different times, and school is in from Monday through Friday. Usually the kids get out at 2:30, except on Fridays when they have late start. So not all of these things are converging at the same time. Is that correct? All these activities?
I think that's the intent because of the limited parking they try to plan out these events to make sure they're not overlapping each other.
Okay. And with the parking issue, there are the commercial adjacent, right, which includes like Rosalie's Dance Studio and El Patio and the other restaurants there. Have there ever been complaints when there's, the baseball league is there or the township, Avon Elementary, like there's parking over there? Have there ever been any complaints from those commercial business owners? I would assume not, because usually that means people are buying stuff there. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes, to our knowledge, there have been no complaints.
Okay, so there have been no complaints from the business owners adjacent. So, okay, wonderful.
Okay.
Has there been any opposition from them for this?
No.
Okay.
Unless they speak here tonight, we haven't heard anything.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'd like to give the applicant an opportunity to speak.
Good evening, council members. I would like to present myself, first of all, to introduce myself, who we are, what we do. Hello? It's not going, right? Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay, thank you. Good evening. My name is Asad Khan. I am the president of Langdon Wilson International. We are architectural planning firm in downtown Los Angeles. We've been in business since 1951. We have been working on a variety of projects from commercial to institutional to educational and university projects. We have done thousands of buildings all over the world. We are an international firm. We have offices all over the world, including China, which I don't want to go today. We have offices in Middle East, and we have offices. We worked in Europe for many large clients. My personal involvement with institutional projects like this is for the last many years. I've been providing our services to our clients. We are currently building about, we just finished a church, the largest church in Los Angeles with 55,500 seats in Crenshaw, California. We have done a synagogue in Tucson, California. We have office in Phoenix also. And also we are working on, just in LA, in a basin of Southern California, 8 mosques. Out of 8, 4 are already built. Some of them had same condition, what you will see here, and some of them had in new land. So we are very familiar with the codes. We do a lot of land planning and master planning. We did a master plan for entire Moreno Valley City. And we did also master plan in entire Orange County, the spectrum. So we are very familiar with a lot of codes and requirements. My staff is. I'm here today to tell you what we want to do. If you look at the image of the existing building of this 43 Township, you see all, this building is very old. It was built in 1966, as you heard from the planners and the director. And at that time, it's a sandwich roof, and it's very light roof. They put, and I think initially when they did the building, and my guess is they didn't have air conditioning. And it got hot here, so somebody said, okay, let's put the air conditioning. So they put the air conditioning with a duct, open duct running. You can see it right from the street. The picture is taken from the street. You can see all that junk sitting on top of it. It's getting very old. It's not safe. The building is not safe. We evaluated as the client contacted us in, I think, 2016. So I'm working with the community since then. I came and observed how they live. Matter of fact, the configuration of the building is also not very good now as the time passes since last 54 years. The requirements of the users are different. Now they have a big worship hall, prayer hall, where they are now using 4 different things at the same time. They are praying, they are teaching the students and adults, they are having a conference meetings. So when the children are there, and they are different ages, and I've observed them, and they were all making noise, because they were learning, and it became a chaos. So when we evaluated, initially I told my client that before we do anything, let us evaluate the building and the condition. Can we improve the building? Because it's always, when you have nonprofit organizations, they always look for that, how we can minimize the cost. So when I evaluated, my staff evaluated, and myself, we thought that there's no chance for us to rebuild this building, because first of all, it was built in 1966. All the codes have changed. Structural codes have changed. Matter of fact, as you see, 72 Northridge earthquake had made big change in our codes. And since then, we've been changing our codes every second or third years. We are now on international building codes, which we follow all over, even the state of California. So this building does not conform to that. Plus, the restrooms are very old, very small. Does not comply with the current codes. We have no classrooms, which the same community members use that for adult education as well as students, Sunday schools and all ages. And there is no library, and I think that's very important for the institution to have the library, as they mentioned to me. So what we're going to do is that we're going to develop a project which the city and all of you and all of us will be proud of it. And that's what our commitment to this project. So we are not changing the footprint. As you see here, we are making a very efficient building. We need to put the second floor in order to have the classrooms. And also, we want to make sure that we have the energy savings and we have the solar panels on the roof, which is required now by the state as of this year. So we're going to comply with that too. Also, we are, as we are reconfiguring, we are not adding any more traffic or any more parking. Matter of fact, we are reducing a couple of cars less than what we have today. So we are not increasing from that point of view. We are increasing the landscape, so we want to make sure we comply with the requirement of the department, and we will do that, and we're already showing that on the site plan. So I would just like to tell you again, we take very pride what we do and what we produce. We will, with your help and with the staff help, we will develop a project which will be very unique for this community and for the city of Simi Valley. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we'll take public statements from the, I'm sure we have cards.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, we have public statement cards for this public hearing. And the first speaker I will call this evening is John Lapper.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we get started, Mr. Lapper, I'm going to tell you how we've been doing this and how I've been conducting it. When you approach, if you would please state your name, and if you desire, tell us where you live. We would like to know where you live. However, if you don't wish us to know where you live, that's fine. There's no requirement. It's just out of courtesy, we'd like to know. And that's it. And then there's a 3-minute speaking time. Oops, excuse me, on this public hearing, 5 minutes. And you'll have the yellow light comes on at 30 seconds to go. And then when the red light comes on, please wrap it up as quickly as you can. That's the stop sign, but we'll do kind of a California stop. I don't want you to stop. Stop mid-sentence, so we're not going to be that way. So with that, Mr. Lapper.
Mayor Mashburn and City Council members, my name is John Lapper, and I proudly live in Simi Valley. First got here in 1976. I'm here tonight supporting the approval for the Islamic Center of Simi Valley on 4343 Township. And the initial reports that came in, boy, they just stole all my thunder, because this, I believe, is going to be a slam dunk for the City Council, because this project really sounds wonderful. It's going to take care of a lot of inadequacies with the safety, with the fire department, and the bathrooms and everything. And there's certainly commercial right around the corner, so this should fit in to have a nice new building. The upgrades will be compliant to the fire department. Parking upgrades will protect the residential neighborhoods. The upgrades should not bring any significant changes to those participating at the site. Business as usual. A peaceful place of worship and education, no different than many houses of worship throughout the city of Simi Valley, and which are mostly in residential areas. And if anybody's been on Royal and has passed St. Rose of Lima, they've noticed a lot of congestion there and the use of the parking lot across the street at Royal High School. So certainly this city is very capable of accommodating large groups if it so should take place. One last thing I might say is I certainly pray that I do not hear any religious objections to this request, whether in person or prejudice from the mind. And I'll say one last thing. I'm the president of Los Arboles Homeowner Association, and we're 43 homes on Royal. We had a beautiful lot next door that was designated for a church. The church ultimately said we can't afford to put a church there, so they sold it to Oakmont for a retirement hotel. We now have this nice, large, we would say a monstrosity, 2-story, but it's next door to us, going to have 80 residents, memory care. Not happy, but it happens. You know, I don't like to hear not in my neighborhood. Sometimes it's 2020, we have to grow, we have to expand, and that's just the way it is. So we're going to be good neighbors to our project, and I hope the surrounding community can be good neighbors to this, the Islamic facility there. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to call the speakers in groups of 3. The next speaker we have this evening is Omar Jabbar. Following is Sohail Kayani and Zakia Kator.
I know he knocked at this, it works. Good evening. He didn't spend his 5 minutes. Can I take the time? Good evening, council members. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to stand before you. I am honored to be here, and my community is honored to be here. I am considered to be the leader, but I am the servant of the community. We have a lot of challenges in that facility, and everybody stole my thunder as well. And you guys should just stay to the back and let us speak first. Inadequate space for the children, crammed quarters in the Sunday school, where I feel bad for the teachers because they're having to deal with teaching young children and the distractions that are around teaching them. They're all in the prayer hall. We have been very good neighbors, and our teachings enforces the fact that we have to be very good neighbors no matter what, to the point that we share our parking lot with Little League Baseball. And we even give them some water if they need some water to come, and they're thirsty or they have some food. I had an experience the other day where we were having a barbecue, and so the smell went over to the park. So a guy comes to me and he said, my wife smelled this really good food. I said, come on, let's give you. We gave him 3-4 plates. And he was among the neighbors that circulated the piece of paper that says, we don't want this project. Hopefully, he changed his mind because the food was delicious. We want you to visit us. We want you to come and see with us, break bread with us. We're not that different from anybody else. We have our children that we need to take care of. We are raising the young generation to be beneficial, to be active members who serve the community. We do a lot of outreach in our mosque. It's a small area, but there's a tremendous amount of energy that comes out of that place, positive energy that helps the neighbors, helps the homeless. And I'm stealing some of the thunder of the young people that's going to speak. But so it is something that we feel that it's a natural fit in the area. We're not strange. I have been in Simi Valley for over 35 years. I raised 2 generations in here. And I saw a Cub Scout, and I told him I used to be a Cub Master in Troop 687. And I taught him a chant, which was, we had a 3622, and that's the number. And I said, 3622, there ain't nothing we can do. So I told him that to write this down, and he's going to attribute it to himself, which I will give him that. I did not. So I ask you to go forward with this. I ask you to make sure that the decision that you make, it will affect our younger generation. It will affect the way that we practice our religion and our house of worship, and to be more comfortable. It's very difficult for somebody to worship when they have to go to the bathroom, and there are 3 people in front of them. I think that the connection between that person and God is kind of interrupted a little bit. And we need to fix that because we only have one bathroom for men and one bathroom for the women. And sometimes we just have to have somebody who stands guard outside to use the other bathroom because there's an emergency. So, and the place is inadequate as this roof is thin. We had some leaks in the roof that we have to fix. You know, you're saying, you're praying and all of a sudden you got some water. So to change this, and we have a beautiful project that we will beautify the area. And that's what I want you to underline, is it's going to beautify the area. It's not going to change anything. We have the same amount of people. They're going to be a lot more happier, and they will contribute to the positive things in the neighborhood. I have 13, 11, 10, 9. I ask God the Almighty to guide you to make the right decision. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, and my time is up. Thank you.
Honorable members of the City Council, Mayor Mashburn, my name is Sohail. I'm a Simi Valley resident. I've lived there for about 20 years. To clarify, I'm not here to speak on behalf of the applicant. I'm here to speak as a Simi Valley resident, a practicing Muslim, to give you my perspective on what this means to the Muslim community in the city of Simi Valley. I had the opportunity and the good fortune to choose where I can live and where I can have my business, and it could have been anywhere in the United States. I chose Simi Valley because of the nature of this city and how welcoming it's been to people of all faiths and different communities. As a community, when we go to expand our place of worship, it should tell you how invested we are in this city. This building is being paid by the community members of this city. We are actually cutting into our hard-earned income to beautify this city by expanding this building. Some facts that we should all know. I was expecting some opposition to this project, but I haven't seen any, which is great. But in case there is any, I just want to clarify a couple of things. Facts tell you that anytime you have an expansion, anytime there's a place of worship, just the mere presence of people actually makes the streets safer. Us providing Sunday school and other programs for our kids not only keep our kids off the street, they actually help the city because we are providing services that normally the city would have to provide. We actually take the rush and the crowdedness out of the programs that the city has. Furthermore, parking should not be an issue, nor should traffic be an issue if anybody does have that concern. As has been stated many times in this conversation and for the presenters who were here before me, the assembly area is not being expanded. We're merely adding more space to make it more convenient. In addition to that, please take a look at the building and the plans and what a positive impact they'll have on our neighborhoods. So I expect from all our neighbors to please look beyond the mere optics. This is not to impact in any negative way our neighborhood and our community. We are Simi Valley citizens. We choose to live here with our children, and we are here to invest and be a part of this community. Please allow us that opportunity to be more invested in the city and contribute to the city with us and our generations to come. I thank you for your time.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Zakia Kator. You've seen me before, and I'm a Simi Valley resident. And I actually feel like my thunder is being stolen as well. I came well prepared with all my facts and figures, but I actually think it's important for me to reiterate some of those facts and figures so that we're all on the same page on what exactly is happening here. I'm also here on behalf of myself and my children. I have 2 young ones that go to the Sunday school at the Islamic Center, and it is in desperate need of an upgrade. And Mayor, you've been there before, and some of the other council members have been there before, and I'm sure you'd all agree that we do need an upgrade of that building. So for the facts and figures, as has been previously stated, the current building was constructed in 1967. And one thing that wasn't mentioned is that it's actually a type of structure that has a 50-year lifespan, and it's right now 53 years old. So it's time for it to be upgraded. The other thing is that it's been subject to a conditional use permit since 1992. So, as a house of worship, as has been mentioned before, so for 28 years, this CUP has been in effect. And this application does not change anything. It doesn't change the existing use that's been happening for 28 years. It just is seeking to upgrade a 53-year-old building that's past its prime, to say the least. And it's just to meet the community's needs. As Imam Jabran put so eloquently, the bathrooms are substandard. My kids are cramped up in the Sunday school, in the prayer hall. Everybody, can you imagine? There's like 6 different classrooms. They have to put up dividers, and then they, some of the volunteers, youth volunteers, bring in those long tables, put in the chairs around them. The Sunday school ends, and then they quickly have to move everything so they can empty out the prayer hall so that the kids and the parents come in and pray together. So it is chaotic. The proposal, as has previously stated, is to basically increase the building footage from about 3,000 square feet to 6,000 square feet. And so this is going from very small to slightly larger. As we all know, there's some homes in the hills here in Simi Valley that are, 4,500, 5,000, 6,000 square feet. So really it's kind of like the size of a big house in Simi Valley. So this is not a large building now, and it's not going to be a large building later. Now, to address some of the concerns that I understand have been raised, that because the building is going to be larger, it's going to increase traffic, it's going to increase parking, but as we've been hearing, these assertions are just simply unfounded, and increasing the building square footage simply does not increase, is not going to result in a larger number of people attending. It is just to accommodate the existing needs of the existing community. So the larger building is not going to motivate people from maybe here and there, but people from outside of Simi Valley are not going to come here just because the building is larger. And so the other thing that I wanted to quickly address is that, the Islamic equivalent of a Sunday, going to church on Sunday is basically Friday prayers in the afternoon. And those who can tend to quickly try to take that 1-hour lunch, go to the masjid, spend 45 minutes, an hour, pray, and then leave and go back to work. So that's kind of where you're going to expect more people to be attending. And the number of people that are going to attend is just not going to increase just because we have a larger building there. So, and has been expressed previously, the building codes have changed, and so in order for them to upgrade and meet fire department standards, there's a turnaround requirements, there's a setback requirements. This is just bringing the building, zoning, and general plan to what the current use is. It really was, as the planning director said, a mistake that this has been zoned as it has been for, over 60 years. So, replacing an old dilapidated building with a new one would not only benefit the community but also the city, replace it with a beautiful new building. And just want to say, this council's purported to support religious liberty before. This is going to be an easy one for you to vote yes on. And I urge you, as a member of the community, to adopt the recommendation of the staff. I read the report thoroughly, and it's very well documented and put together, to authorize the application for further processing. This is a no-brainer. It's an easy one. There's just no reason not to vote yes. So thank you.
All right. The next 3 speakers we have is Michelle Lapointe, Summer Ismail, Yvonne Wilbur.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I'm here in support of item 4A, approval of the continuation of a zoning variance for the Islamic Center. But I'm speaking on something a little bit different. I am asking that Councilman Mike Judge recuse himself from this vote and all deliberations because I am concerned about his many public statements of anti-Muslim bias. This body, through Mayor Mashburn, has already established the precedent of accepting social media posts as evidence of beliefs and character and of reading them into the public record in support of my assertion of bias. I would like to do the same here. In the interest of my time limit, I am also sharing a few examples from Councilman Judge's Twitter page, but anyone who chooses to do the research can review posts and comment threads on Councilman Judge's non-city social media and will find many more examples of anti-Muslim and anti-immigrant sentiment. On this one, and I will give this to you when I'm done, he characterizes 4 duly elected congresswomen, 3 of them Muslim, as stupid, petulant, self-entitled losers that hate America. On this one, he reposts a tweet that calls a Muslim congresswoman from Michigan a jihadist. In this post, Councilman Judge says so true of an assertion that Islam is not peaceful. This final example, Stand with PragerU, is also from Councilman Judge's Twitter feed. Councilman Judge posts a lot of PragerU videos on Twitter. He used to post 1 or 2 a month. Since the beginning of this year, it's been about 1 a week. PragerU, which is a media content company, not a university, produces slick 5-minute videos, often with an attractive presenter and cartoon graphics, that educate viewers about issues in a very particular way. Princeton history professor Kevin M. Cruz has described PragerU videos this way. They start out with a certain premise, for example, that the Republican Party can't be the party of racism, and then they work backwards to find evidence that can be cherry-picked to support that argument. PragerU videos on the topic of Islam include the following: the dangers of Islamism, born to hate, values of the West and Islam are not compatible, Islamism is antithetical to a free society, Islam is not a religion of peace. And those are only the ones I'm not too embarrassed to read in a public forum. I don't know what is in Councilman Judge's heart. I don't know how deep his bias goes, but anyone can verify that these are the things he chooses to read, copy, paste, share, discuss, and comment about on social media. And to have that track record of public sentiment means that any vote he makes on this subject would be tainted. Therefore, I ask Councilman Judge to recuse himself from this vote, and I would like to submit these examples into the public record. Thank you.
Good evening. I'd like to start off by thanking City Council and the council members for allowing me to stand before you today, representing the youth of the Islamic Center of Simi Valley. My name is Summer Ismail. I'm 17 years old, and I'm currently a senior at Simi Valley High School. I've grown up and lived in Simi Valley my whole life, and one of the many great things I've noticed about our community is the strong and close-knit community that we have that keeps on giving back to its citizens. And one thing we prioritize at our house of worship is giving back to this community. For example, setting up clothes drives, feeding the homeless, and creating dinners to honor our first responders and workers of the community. And we'd love to host more events like these. And with a bigger common room and prayer area, we'd be able to organize these events more adequately, along with executing them. Because oftentimes, we have to plan them outside due to lack of space, and it's cold. And due to the amount of kids, it's difficult to get them all outside and organized. Also, with the addition of our library, we're able to provide the resources and the tools to help teach the younger kids about our religion and the values of our religion, and like those things that we hold close to our heart, like giving back to our community. And I'd like to thank you guys again for allowing us to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Go Pioneers.
Mayor and members of the City Council. My name's Yvonne Wilbur. I'm a 22-year resident of Simi Valley. I'm a librarian and educator, and the idea of creating new spaces and places for education and for libraries warms my heart. But more so, what warms my heart is this. I want you to look. I want you to look at the beautiful diversity. I don't know that we've ever had so many hijabs in this room. This is what makes America great. I first became aware of the Muslim community here in Simi Valley after a horrific tragedy in the state of California, and there was a candlelight prayer vigil at Simi Valley High School that was put on by the Muslim students at Simi Valley High School. Since then, I've been in the mosque several times. Their hospitality is greater than any Italian grandmother, any Mexican mama. The food is amazing. In March of last year, my husband and I visited the mosque on a Friday night. It was directly after the dual mosque attacks in Christchurch, New Zealand. We visited the mosque as a sign of our solidarity with the community, and what we found there was a group of high school-age young men. They were happy for us to be there, and they rushed over themselves to get snacks for us, because that's the sort of people that they are. I'm an educator at Cal Lutheran University. I teach, I'm an adjunct in the religion department, and I bring students to the mosque as an interfaith site visit experience. When I bring students, they sometimes are a little nervous. And so I'll give you an example of one of my most recent visits, which was just last week. We had a debriefing in class afterwards, and one of the students admitted that she was a little nervous to go to a mosque. She'd never been to a mosque, because that's where people have difficulties with things like building a bigger building, because they're afraid. They don't know these people. But she said when she got there and was able to experience not only hospitality, but the teachings of Islam that are so similar to many of our teachings of different faiths. I'm a Catholic. To hear that the value of things are incremental. Gold is measured by ounces. Diamonds are measured by carats. And in Islam, good deeds are measured by atoms. Every atom of a good deed is counted. Every atom of an evil deed is counted also. So I want to share my support for this community, for this beautiful community, which is part of our city. And I'm concerned that the complaints about traffic and parking and such really comes from a different place than concerns about traffic and parking. And that's all I want to say, and I also want to thank you again, and I want to thank the Islamic community of the Green Crescent, the Islamic Society of Simi Valley.
Thank you.
Our next three speakers is Gary Anderson, Carol Knudsen, and Mike Porter.
Mr. Mayor, council members. Hey, somebody's taller than I am here. Okay. City Attorney, Mr. Gabler, thank you. I live directly, my name's Gary Anderson, I live directly below it. We've heard a lot of nice things here tonight. It sounds great, I agree with it. I don't have a problem with them building a mosque. The lady who spoke before me, I don't think lives in the area. We have a traffic problem on Township. Myself and a couple other speakers that you'll hear witnessed 3 children and then a 4th almost being killed Friday. We're standing, do you have a map? Can you put a map up there? Give me a city map, please. We were standing on this corner. 3 children came this way. They saw a car coming this way. Okay? The kids saw it. We think they're from
Valley View?
Yeah, Valley View. I think they were there. They met maybe one of the little brothers. The 3 kids saw the car coming. They got out of the way. This is all, picture this, all completely full cars. And it's not just the mosque. This goes on all the time. This isn't just a mosque issue. It's a city issue. So I live down in here. All these parked cars, this kid runs out. He's the last one.
Oh, yeah, could you stand in front? Yeah. And I think, do we have a, here's a, here you go.
Okay. I think it's sufficient, Mr. Mayor. Everybody knows where I'm talking about. So, how do you aim this thing? Turn it?
There's a button on the side.
Is there? Oh, there it is. Okay.
You have to hold it down.
Hold the button up.
Okay, so all of this happened right here. The little fella, he's only about this tall, he comes running out, and you know, like when you throw a baseball and you know where you have to be to catch it? He isn't going to make it across the street. So myself, my wife, and our neighbor ran out towards him and told him to run, and he did. And we're waving at the car, we're going like this, and for some reason that car stopped. If we hadn't been there, that child, I believe, would have been hit. So I don't have, again, just to repeat to our friends with mosque, I don't have a problem with your mosque, but I got a problem with the cars big time. And this doesn't happen just
Sir,
once
you
in a
need
while.
to speak to the council.
Sir, sorry. This doesn't happen once in a while. We see this quite often. The mosque was very nice Friday. They tried to move some of the cars around and get people not to double park on the corners. I sent all of you these pictures. You should have received it in your email, okay? So I don't know from a city point, from a building point, how to get around this. I don't have a problem with the mosque, but I got a problem with the location. I'm curious, is there any way we can help them to find a location that's got bigger property or this, that, or the other thing? Because that street is full up. Let me go back to what I wrote about 50 times. Township is out of control, but we can improve it and minimize the dangers of the children, to the children. We kindly ask Mayor Mashburn to get hold of the principals, whatever the protocol is for that. We'd like them to send out a memo. Ms. Lavanos, if you could make sure, I believe your Spanish is much better than mine. See? Let's warn the kids. They need to send out a memo or something and talk to the kids. We also did a little bit of research for Anthony Gallo. He's the public works engineer. And we need to make some changes to make the city streets safe for the children. But Mr. Eldridge, I'm telling you, if somebody comes down that street and some kid gets killed, I think they're going to find us as a city that we're going to be culpable. We need a crosswalk. We need all these different things taken care of. I don't have a problem with the plan, but we've got to do something about the parking, or we need to help them find a place that has got plenty of parking. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Good evening, City Council, Mayor Mashburn. My name is Carol Knudsen, and I live on Arlington Avenue. My home has been in our family for 50 years. I have seen that property. I saw it when it was the American Legion post. I played all around that park and around the American Legion post. But the Islamic Society has outgrown that property. The idea that now they want to expand on the existing property it's ludicrous, to be honest. This past Friday, I walked up to make sure my 12-year-old daughter crossed township safely. And what I witnessed was truly shocking. The traffic was constant, sometimes backing up as cars were turning into the park parking lot. There were kids everywhere, many crossing the street with traffic approaching. There were kids coming out from between parked cars to cross the street. There was a heart-stopping moment, like Gary said, when it looked like a group of kids were going to be hit, and he literally jumped in the way to shield those kids. If that car didn't stop. I knew it was getting worse up there, more dangerous, but it's so much worse than what I thought. I promise you, this is not an exaggeration. This is personal for me. My brother was hit by a car when he was 6 years old and was killed. And I wouldn't want another family to suffer that devastation, so I am sounding the alarm. I didn't want to be the one to complain. Our neighborhood looks out for each other. The Islamic Society is part of our neighborhood too. But I cannot support this expansion and the increased traffic and danger it will bring. And they cannot say that it will not bring more people. They talk on the one hand that they're not going to be more people, but then they talk about outreach. So I'm sorry, but I don't think that that's a realistic thing. Their argument is that they're only there for 1 hour, half an hour on a Friday afternoon, but that is right when Valley View and Township is getting out of school, and it is extremely dangerous up there. There is no crosswalk going from Township crossing to Arlington, but the kids wouldn't use it anyway. They're crossing all along Township. So I'm respectfully asking the City Council not to rezone the property to general commercial. This will be a loophole for any place of assembly or business to build on this property when it doesn't fit into our neighborhood. This should remain as currently zoned with a conditional use permit in place, and the conditional use permit should be enforced. This was put in place for a reason. In closing, I'm really disappointed in the City Building and Environmental Services Department for them to recommend the rezoning in their staff recommendations dated 1/27/2020, stating that the use of the site for the religious facility has not resulted in any issues is clearly not accurate. Seeing that parking hasn't been addressed in the plans is disappointing as well. And reading the glowing comments from the Environmental Services Director made in the Acorn about the expansion makes it clear he and his staff either don't care about how this affects the immediate neighborhood or hasn't done their due diligence and visited the site during the peak hours to see these dangerous issues. Either way, this is unacceptable. So I thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My wife and I have lived right here on this corner for 25 years. So I would assume that I have as much at stake as anybody in this matter, since I'm the closest house to this mosque. My concerns are not religious. I don't care whether it's a mosque or a church or a restaurant. My concern is the fact that enlarging this building will undoubtedly generate undue traffic and parking on a regular basis and will have a negative impact on property values, in my opinion. Even at its present size, there's always an overflow parking situation when there is an event at the mosque. Their parking lots fill up here, then they fill up the baseball field parking, and then the cars come on both sides of Township and Arlington, a couple blocks down. When there's baseball going on, it's triple the problem. It's a perfect storm. When there's kids in school, it just becomes chaos. So the city has a big problem with this area, and I hope the answer isn't putting a stoplight right there, because that would just be traumatic for myself personally. So I assume that the city is looking at that situation and the traffic, because that is really the issue here. It's not the mosque. I applaud what they're doing. they're trying to improve their building. The fact of the matter is, it's a tiny half-acre plot of land. For the lofty ambitions and what they're putting there and the hundreds of people that come to their events, it's just not big enough to have that amount of people coming on a weekly basis. It's just not. It's a tiny piece of land in a residential area. So, like some of the other people have said, I think that if there's another place that could accommodate that kind of activity, this just isn't the place. I mean, my wife has a strong problem with it being a two-story building. We both agree that the building there needs a lot of work. If they could tear that down and build a brand new, beautiful building, great. But to have a two-story building with, from what I read in the plans, less parking spots is just going to exacerbate this parking situation. So that's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next three speakers, Ginny Murray, Gina Dickinson, and Sue Caples.
Good evening, everyone. I am Ginny Murray, and I live as a resident in the area affected. I live on a street where where the overflow parking comes in. And I am also disappointed in the planning. I'm disappointed in the environmental report because obviously you haven't driven around on the days affected to see what's going on, what's really going on. And again, I also am saying I don't care if this is a church or a mosque. There are already 2 churches on township, but they have adequate parking. They have never been a problem. They've also offered their parking to Santa Susana Boys Baseball and to Township School when they have events where they need extra parking. But the parking is very unmanageable there, and I just don't understand, if you're city council members, why you haven't gotten in your cars and gone and looked for yourselves at the right hours. We are residents living there, and we are finding a lot of congestion. We picked our homes because we had the fields south of us, and to the north we had this bucolic setting of a school and a park and low buildings. And we lost the fields. We got a lot of development, but there was adequate parking. Great. Didn't affect us. And the apartment buildings that they built didn't affect us either, but this affects us. My other comment is, obviously, when they purchased this property, they knew that building was dilapidated. They had to have known that. Anyone does. And they had to know they were going to expand. So now this expansion is on us, the residents. And we don't have a problem. As Yvonne Wilbur stated, we have ulterior motives, perhaps? No, we don't. We have a problem with the parking and the congestion. We picked our property. We picked our home to live there, as you all did. I bet you all have homes where you picked them based on the quiet neighborhood, the least congestion, the peacefulness. I'm sure you picked them based on that, right? So that's how we chose our homes, and now we feel this intrusion. And as I said, we already lost those fields, but we dealt with it because we had another outlet here. A 2-story building is going to create something really ugly overlooking the park. I don't care how pretty the building is, but it's going to ruin the park setting. Wow. Wow. It is going to ruin the park setting. We play at the park. We take our dogs to the park. And other churches that need more space go to industrial areas where there is adequate parking. They don't buy a property and then say, oops, we don't have enough parking, and now we have to change everything. Again, we bought our properties based on that, and that's very important to all of us. Thank you. Oh, one more thing. Since you're speaking, when we say the Pledge of Allegiance, I would appreciate no additions.
Time is up.
No additions to the pledge.
Julia,
no additions.
Time's up. Hey, everybody, we're doing so good. We're doing so good. Let's, sir, just, hey, you're talking now and you're talking out of order, so please stop. I will. Thank you.
Good evening, City Council members. My name is Gina Dickinson, and I've lived in the Fountainwood tract right across from the Islamic Center for about 19 years. I went to Valley View, just been in this area for a very long time. I just need to say right now, this definitely is a traffic issue at this point in time. Adding one more car, we still have a traffic issue off Arlington and Township. So expansion or not, there's an issue. So my daughter attends Houghton Schreiber Preschool, directly 25 feet to the left of the Islamic Center. So she's been there for a year and will continue for another year. My other daughter is 100 yards behind the Islamic Center, which is Valley View Middle School. And she's one of 1,269 students that attend there. And I'm going to tell you, being a resident and a past attendee, that half of those students travel down Township, down Taphook Street, turn west down Township, and congregate, wait for parents to pick them up at Houghton Schreiber Park, which is right next door, in Arlington, where I live. And there's a real issue with kids crossing in that area, but there's also a trifecta of schools, that being number one, number two being my daughter's preschool, which holds 51 3- and 4-year-olds 5 days a week, and then about maybe 500 yards away, there's Township Elementary traffic as well, and today Township had 535 students there. I'm also kind of part of the San Jacinto Baseball League, enrolling my other daughter in that league, and as of today, there's 300 students that are going to be in the 2020 spring registration, which use the baseball field, which is the San Jacinto baseball field, as well. Now, I live here, I witness this daily, whether it's the Islamic Center, whether it's traffic from the schools. We have at least 1,855 kids daily in this zone, and they are using this street. They are crossing in front of the Islamic. They're crossing in front of they're using the crosswalk, but they're kids, and there's a bus route. They wait right in front of the Islamic Center and across east and west, waiting for the bus every day. They horse around, they're pushing each other. Now, when the congregation is going on with the Islamic Center is when we have a real problem. They're parking on both sides of Township, which is obstructing views. It's obstructing children's views, trying to cross in between cars, and residents, myself, crossing out of Arlington, turning left or right onto Township. I myself, I've been dealing with this for years. This is not something that just popped up 2 weeks ago when we saw the sign. This has been happening for a long time. The congregation's growing, like most churches do, but the car amount that they're bringing is the problem. They're bringing the cars into the neighborhoods, obstructing views. Now we have kids at risk. Now we have this large destination where there's trifecta of schools, and then the Islamic Center is right in the center. And even right now, like I said, adding one more car is affecting us now. And I myself don't feel comfortable even walking across the street to get my daughter. I have my other daughter walking between. It's just scary as mom. It's scary. I go out there usually just to make sure kids are okay, because traffic isn't safe right now. So I'm in complete opposition of this, and I will be at other meetings kind of changing my speech here and there, because I really believe this is a danger, and my kids are at risk, and other community parents that live in this area are witness to this. I don't think a large amount of parents know what's going on unless I go out in there and talk to them. I feel like they don't realize that, peak hours when they're congregating, their kids' route to their cars or to their homes are being obstructed, and that's what really concerns me. So thank you for listening, and everyone have a good evening.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Sue Steiger-Caples. I grew up off of Township Avenue. I went to nursery school on Township Avenue. I went to elementary school on Township Avenue, and I went to junior high school off of Township Avenue. Houghton Park is a place where I have played. It is a place where I have brought my own children and my recent grandchild to play. My nieces and nephews have played ball there. It has been a safe place for children of all religions and their families to run and play for well over 50 years. I am, however, in opposition to this property expansion, not out of hatred. The adjunct professor said something that she fears that the opposers to this expansion is for other reasons, and I believe she's right. It's out of fear, but not out of fear from anyone in this room. I'm not afraid of anybody in this room, but unfortunately, there are radicals that exist in this world. And on both sides, please respectfully hear me out. There are radicals on both sides of the Islamic society, and unfortunately that brings about violence. And I'm not afraid to speak up to maintain a safer neighborhood for everyone, for all of you. I'm not afraid that to say that I want you to continue to have your building there, that's fine, but I do believe that the larger population that we build there, unfortunately, we do have people in this world that aren't kind and that aren't looking for justice for all. And so please, will you hear my vote? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, hey, everybody, let's take a 5-10 minute break, take a deep breath. We're doing so good. Let's keep it going good. We don't have to make comments when others are speaking. So let's take a break, walk around, get some fresh air, and try knocking a little bit of the emotion out of it. And we'll come back in 10 minutes, 15 after. foot on it. Okay, we talked a lot about bathrooms tonight. I hope you all found the bathrooms out in the lobby.
No line, no line.
And no line.
A little bit of line.
And I'd like to bring up one small thing, is we talked about ex parte communications. That's where a council member has talked to somebody about a project. And I have been to the mosque and have had dinner there and what have you, and I know several of you from the mosque. But I can honestly tell everybody here, I've never spoken one word to any member regarding this project. Not one word. When I was there, it was strictly social, and they never brought up anything to do with this project. So this is a new, clear view for me. So I wanted you to be aware of that. Omar would like to say a brief word.
Please face this. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. This is for our community, inshallah, and I consider everybody here as our community. I would like to respectfully ask you not to respond to anybody that speaks. At the time they finish, at the end, if you like what they say, then you clap. If you don't like what they say, don't say anything. Do not interact or interject yourself in the conversation. Everybody has their own opinion. Everybody has the right to speak, whether it's in our favor or against us. We are here to listen. We are here to express our feeling and show our gratitude and our deen and our religion in respecting other opinions. So I'd like you to adhere to that. If not, then I'm going to have you stand behind 5 people behind the bathroom. You will not get it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you, and let's just respectfully listen to what others have to say, their concerns, and we say what we have to say, and that is it. No emotional. I know there are some buttons that are sometimes that are pushed, but hold back, okay? Deflect rather than take it in here. Okay, thank you very much for allowing me.
Thank you. Okay, we're ready for the next speaker.
All right, the next 3 speakers. The first one we have is Nashat Shial, Anna LaRusso, Abdul Nasir.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, the audience, and everybody here. My name is Nashat Mishael. I'm actually the president of the Islamic Society of Simi Valley, the president of the board of directors. And I'm here actually to just state some facts and not to play on emotions. The facts that our place of worship and the expansion project that we have, and as the plans have shown it, and as have the planning department has looked at, in fact, actually, the square footage of our assembly is smaller than the existing assembly. Our expansion, I would describe it as a family living in their early life in a 2-bedroom apartment with 4 children. They have 2 bunk beds to have all the 4 kids in 1 bedroom. But when the kids grow, they each want to have their own bedroom. They want to be able to do their homework, and also they don't want to have a line for the bathroom in the morning, somebody to miss their buses or somebody to be late to work. And what's happening right now in our center is exactly that. We're trying to optimize the use of our facility. The fact that we're going from 3,000 square feet to 6,000 square feet is just like having a house grown not to increase our numbers. We do have about 120 families, and we will continue to serve our 120 continued families. We're not here, and I empathize with the people that think that our expansion, meaning that we're going to add more people. That is not the underlying reason why we are expanding. We are expanding to serve our current members, to give our students the ability to learn without being having a teacher who's literally competing for their attention because the only thing that divides them is a curtain, and they're hearing from the different teachers. So we're trying to have classes where they actually can learn. We're trying to help our youth to build on their programs, whether it's Toastmasters, whether it's feeding the needy, whether it's food bank, whether keeping them out of trouble, to give them a home where there is no trouble. That is our reason for expansion. Yes, we believe that we have to be good neighbors. And we are doing something about it. As was mentioned, yes, we have a security guard. And not only that, we actually added another person to direct traffic. I am a father. I have 5 kids. I care about the safety of my kids, so I will not ignore the safety of others. We care about education. We're adding a library in our facility, so enough material is there for our kids to benefit from. Our parking lot is not going to be limited only for us. We are open for the park. When they have some games, they could use our parking lot. We're not against that. We share with them that neighborly relationship. So I ask you, rather than looking at your emotions, but look at the facts, that our project, we're going to be here regardless whether the project is, whether we get the expansion or not. So if you're telling me there's a problem with traffic, that's the same problem that we have now. I thank you, and I look forward for your support.
Good evening, council members. My name is Anna LaRusso. I am a 30-year resident of Simi Valley and currently reside 3 doors down from the Islamic Society at 4343 Township. I'm not a good speaker, so give me just a minute. I am adamantly opposed to the application GPPS 201902, Green Crescent of Simi Valley, to amend the Simi Valley General Plan land use designation from neighborhood park to general commercial for 0.64 parcel in order to allow the replacement of an existing building to a religious facility. This was sent to us by the city on February 4th, 2020 from City Hall. My main concern is that this is a very active preschool, middle school, elementary school, and baseball soccer field in our Fountainwood community. We have real issues with the increased traffic and parking it brings to our streets. My 4-year-old granddaughter attends Houghton Schreiber Preschool, which is approximately 20 to 30 feet from this proposed building site. The environmental impact it places on our younger 3 to 4-year-old children during construction with such close proximity is of great concern to me as a grandmother. The safety concerns of walking and crossing our kids across township is a great concern, especially if you allow this to be rezoned to a commercial site. The Islamic Society has outgrown their membership, and simply, this is not the place to do it. By tearing down their existing building, which they plan to tear down the existing building completely and construct a 2 to 3 story mosque, please consider our safety concerns regarding the traffic issues. This is not a religious issue. We as a community want them to have a mosque. This is not the place to put it. This is in a residential area with 3 schools in a very small perimeter. My granddaughter is 20 to 30 feet from where this is proposed. They need to comply with their conditional use permit and not be rezoned to commercial. It's simply not a big enough space for them. On January 24th at 1:50 approximately, after all their cars filled up their allotted parking spaces, 64 cars were parked in the Houghton Schreiber parking spaces. 64 cars were parked along our streets on Township, Arlington Avenue, and at El Patio restaurant parking spaces, which totaled 128 additional cars to what their allotment is in their parking spaces. On January 31st, approximately 1 p.m., there was 44 approximate Islamic Society parking lot spots. We counted 103 parked on Houghton Schreiber, Arlington, Township, and El Patio. If they build the mosque, it is very clear that they do not have enough parking now for their members. Where they are parking, where are we going to put these additional cars? They're saying that there's going to be no problem with parking. We have and have had for at least the last 4 years a big problem with parking. This simply is not the place to put this mosque. I hope that they find some place that has commercial parking, that makes it safe for everybody, but our kids are at stake. I have many kids, grandkids, that go to these 3 schools, that play in the baseball field. I'm simply saying this is not the place to put a mosque where you have such a concentration of kids and school safeties. Thank you very, very much for listening to me tonight.
I can use it.
Okay, sure.
Hello, dear Mayor, members of the council. I'm not part of the board of the mosque or in the government of the mosque, but I moved into Simi Valley in 2013. And if I should say, I had the pleasure of moving to Simi Valley in 2013. And I felt the warm welcoming from every neighbor and also from our community. By our community, it means the whole Simi Valley community, not Muslims, not Christians only. It is the whole community because we are part of the same community. By profession, I'm an engineer, electrical engineer. I have finished my degree and I've gotten my master, and I have been also an adjunct professor of electrical engineering. As part of my hobby, I always, when I moved into Simi Valley, I wanted to give back to my beautiful community. And one of the things that I suggested to the leadership of the mosque is just give me a room so I will establish tutoring for the whole community. There are quite many people in Simi Valley that don't have the facility, don't have the ability to send their kids to get taught math or physics or things, something that I have learned, and I want to give back to the whole community, no matter which kind of religion they have. But the problem that I faced, although everybody agreed with me, the problem that we faced is we don't have a place, we don't have a class, something that will facilitate this kind of a need. So that's why when the proposal for this change came, I was so glad that finally I might be able to give back to our community, to our beautiful Simi Valley. The second point that, as I said, being with the youth, no matter how old am I, 56 right now, I'm still part of the youth. And that's why, I mean, I was being a professor, a teacher all my life, we established a youth group. And this youth group, the community, they grew up to almost 60 people in the youth group that are meeting every Friday. And the beauty about it is that in this 60 plus or minus people, and right now we are, usually the present people maybe around 30, quite many of them graduated school. And a good number of them have got, I mean, I don't know of anyone who has not gone to university. And they are going for their degrees, furthering their degrees. Two of them just finished their pre-med, and they are going for medical school. One of them went to MIT. There are like 5, 6 of them that have gone to UC Irvine, and also there's few that have gone to UC San Diego. The number that these counts, the statistics that you see, it is much above the average people that we see that are going to university. And the number that we are seeing that are going to university right now, based on the recent tally that I saw, is 4 out of 10 people that are graduating from high school are going to university. And I'm proud that I have been part of this community, that part of this group that I'm encouraging them to go to university and be productive to our country. One of the things that was mentioned in here was that by some of our brothers and sisters in humanity that were opposing this proposal was that the school timing coincides with the Friday prayer. I have one kid, actually 3 of my kids have already finished university, or 2 of them have finished. The third one is in the last year. She's 20 years old, and she is in the last year of university. She's finishing it up. And the third one is going to Valley View Middle School. She is getting off of the school at 2:35, and at the mosque the prayer is at 1 o'clock, finishes up at 1:45. So I don't know how this, there might be some misunderstanding. They might have seen people from different areas that have come, and there has been an issue. The baseball, also the baseball is on, Little League Baseball is on Sunday, not on Friday. So again, there's a misunderstanding. And the other thing, sorry, my time is up. I have a solution actually for the car problem. Simi Valley should ban everyone who's coming to the mosque to have a car, everyone who has children that they are dropping their children to school to not have a car, and we are going to be safe. Thank you.
Three next speakers are Rebecca Albaran, Richard Moore, Jeff Peterson.
Hi, good evening. My name is Rebecca Albaran. I declined to state my place of residency. Hopefully I can make it in the 5 minutes. So I am here to support the request to change the general plan land use designation from neighborhood park to general commercial for a 0.64 acre parcel located at 4343 Township Avenue. The vote is to approve the continuation of a 50-year zoning variance and allow a faith community to knock down a crumbling building and build a new one. It should be a no-brainer. The Planning Commission certainly thinks so, as evidenced by the staff report, and yet there are arguments against it. One of the arguments is that we should not allow zoning variances of any circumstances. That would overturn many of the decisions of this council. It would be very bad news for developers, and it would make it difficult to manage the future growth of the city. And it would be nonsensical and discriminatory to forbid zoning variances just for houses of worship and not for any other category of building. So I believe that it is an easy decision. Approve. One of the arguments is about traffic and parking. The staff report clearly states that there would be no more impact on the neighboring homes and facilities than there has been in recent years. The site has not been a burden or a barrier to the use of public facilities or residents in its long history, from when it was approved the American Legion Hall in 1966 to when it was converted to a house of worship decades ago to when this house of worship took it over in 2012. So easy decision, approve. But perhaps the arguments about zoning and traffic and the size are merely smokescreens for bias against a particular faith community. I have heard members of the public say, it's not about the mosque. They can have it, but let's just find another place for it. Some individuals have used the word expulsion, radical, and that this is not the place for it. I hear that a lot about a lot of buildings that are being built. We don't want it here, not in our space, not in our neighborhoods. We don't want them here. But I disagree. The house of worship is there now. They're part of this community, and they want to improve and invest in that space. That is a gift and service to all of us in Simi Valley. A yes vote would be a win-win-win for this council. You approve a worthy and necessary project, you support our neighbors, and you improve the reputation of Simi Valley in the same 30 seconds. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Richard Moore. After the military, I attended seminary, became a missionary over the entire northeast and southeast of America. Recently, I'm an ordained minister. Now, what I noticed were the mosques that I met in Midtown Manhattan and Nashville, Tennessee. They're small facilities and they're very packed. And when you outgrow your facility, you have to move. What I saw in Mississippi was churches on the outside edges of a town, and they could install a graveyard as well because it was the cheapest priced land, and they could expand as they needed. My wife attended the local Islamic center at an industrial center here in Simi Valley when they had an all-night prayer facility. It was a condition or something. So when you improve a building, like you want to install some new restrooms and expand a building, you are then held to the current existing laws on the books. You have to put in the handicap ramp, you got to do all the other stuff. So if they want to change this, hold them to the regulations. This is a neighborhood park. The situation for Christian churches is they're busy Wednesday nights and absolutely Sunday mornings. School's not in session at that time. Jewish synagogues and temples, they're busy Saturday morning. Again, public schools are not in session. The mosques have a different schedule, and therefore it's a problem. My 3 kids all attended Valley View Middle School, and the traffic is terrible there. I walked to school, I rode my bike to school. Around here, every parent gets in a big wagon train and they bring their kids through. It's crazy. I don't know why they just don't let them walk, but they don't. They all shuttle them up there like crazy. So because of these traffic problems, you don't want to make it worse. If this is park, make it park. So if you increase your building, you're obviously going to have more room for more people, but that doesn't mean you have more parking space. So you're doing the Islamic Center here a disservice by not holding them to the rules and encouraging them to move to another location where they can have the right facility and the right space for all of their members. You're helping them grow up. Okay? So I encourage you not to approve this and hold them to the rules. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Jeff Pedersen. I'd be happy to stay where I live. I live on Springfield Street, which makes this very proximate to my existence. I don't hide behind where I live at all. Be open about it. I've lived there. I've lived in Simi for over 50 years. I played flag football at Houghton Schreiber Park before the ball fields went in. That's how long I lived in this town. As a result of this 2 to 3 story construction, because I assume there will be a dome from what I can see in the schematic here, there will be less parking spaces upon completion there. Parking's a major issue. I don't know if any of you are familiar with an event I haven't heard discussed yet, which is called Ramadan. That occurs in the evenings, doesn't conflict with school or anything, but it sure brings out quite the crowd for about a month straight in the evenings. That can go on till like 1 in the morning, especially upon completion, which isn't really a typical use for what's going on. There are 2 issues here as I see it. One is you want to totally tear down and build a new building in a facility that was obviously in need of that back in 2012 when the Mosque, or Islamic Society of Simi Valley, as they chose to call it at that time, kind of moving away from that now, purchased the property from, I think, like Valley Book and Bible or some there was a Christian organization there, but between the American Legion. The building should have been obviously in need of severe renovation at that time. It's only been 7 years and change since that's occurred. So if you're going to approve something that's over twice the square feet, I've heard 6,000 square feet kicked around, but I see 6,700 and change in this literature that I have before me. And if you don't expect growth in membership, you're obviously drinking not this kind of water, which is Kirkland. You're drinking Evian, which if you spell it backwards is naive. It's ludicrous. The mission of the city of Simi Valley, which I have come to have little faith in anymore, having had to suffer through the states ramming down our throats the Tapo and Alamo project, is to deliver, the mission statements to deliver service, excellent service to our community, providing a safe and healthy living environment, sound fiscal management. Oh, those retirement budgets are going to kill you. Responsive customer service and an atmosphere that encourages community involvement and volunteerism through a local government that's accessible, efficient, and accountable to its citizens. They've outgrown, at this point, 6.4-acre lot. You can throw whatever structure you want on there and call it good, but they need to find another building somewhere else, as this land site is inadequate. Also, I discourage zoning it to commercial, because then who knows what apartment complex could go up there, and the state doesn't allow us any control over those anymore. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I have 4 more speakers to announce for Riza Jalala, Jenny Knack, Walaa, Wala Gassim, and Saeed Shifa.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. I greet you with the greeting of Islam. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you with all, and peace be upon all the family of Simi Valley, whether they are supporting this project or not. I have moved to this city, and I had the pleasure of living in here for the last 20 years. My daughter, she went to Simi Valley High School. She finished from there, and she got her degree from CSUN. My son, two sons, one of them, he finished from Royal High School, and he was coaching the football team, more than 40 students. And he's still doing that. He also went to, after that, he went to Moore Park College, and he was assistant coach at Moore Park College as well. Now he's going to CSUN, and this year is the last year for him to graduate. My third son, he is going to Royal High School, and he's graduating this year. And my fourth child, he's 10 years old, and he's going to Spring Elementary School. I've been living in this city, and I have nothing else but good memories. My children, they have gone to AYSO. My oldest son, he has been doing coaching in there. I have done coaching for the last 8 years, and because I love the city, I love the kids, and I love to contribute back to the city. Some of the members of this who came here and they complain about the traffic, they are absolutely right. We have two schools. One is Township Elementary School that has 549 students. We also have a Valley View Middle School that has 1,247 students. So every time we're going by those streets, it's always congested during the drop-off times, the starting time, and also when they finish. As far as the mosque is concerned, I've been living in this city, like I mentioned, for the last 20 years, and I have gone there probably like 20 times on Fridays, because my job, I do security for the last 27 years, and wherever my job takes me, I just go over there. But this community of the Muslim, they need a better location. And we have this location. We bought the church and it's already paid off. We are collecting money on an annual basis to make sure that we have a better conditions for our children, for the ladies, because everybody's suffering. Whenever they come during the month of Ramadan, if one person goes to the bathroom, then it's hard for the other people to wait. And so we need a location. We need this project to be approved, because we deserve better living conditions, especially in the house of prayers. So thank you very much for all your support. And I thank all the people who are supporting this project. God bless you, and God bless this wonderful city.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jenny Knack, and I am a resident of Simi Valley. I'm going to voice my support for 4A. I'm relatively new to the city. I've only been here going on 2 years. When I first came, one of the first things I did was join Moms of Simi Valley Facebook group. That's how I found out about SSFL. But the one thing that they talked about all the time was how their particular school had the worst drop-off traffic They complained about people double parking, people driving too fast, people driving too slow at every single school in this city. I live close to Atherwood. It's not these schools, but I walked over because I hope to take my daughter there someday. Yeah, it's a mess. I think it's a mess at every school in the city for some reason. I don't, maybe it's, every school in Southern California. I have no idea. But I don't think it has anything to do with this mosque. And if there are traffic problems, I think the common sense thing to do is maybe put in cross lights, do some urban planning in that regard, but let's not target the religious center and somehow blame them for the school's traffic, because it's obviously not their fault. I'm not a person of belief, but I am very concerned when I hear anyone talk about someone else's freedom of worship being somehow a threat, and I want to apologize to the community, and I hope that they feel the support of other people in the room. I think that anyone in this room that doesn't understand maybe how the Constitution works, they have the freedom to worship however they want and whenever they want, and it appears that their schedule is not in conflict with the schools. So I hope that we can improve this project, show them that we hear them. I've got my ears on. I hear all the love that they are coming up, introducing us to the stories of their families, and I hope that we show them that we appreciate their neighborly outreach, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Greeting you with Assalamu alaikum, may peace be upon you all. Thank you for giving us the opportunity and hearing us in this evening. Just I want to highlight that the expansion does not mean that Muslims are coming from other cities to use the area, because in the valley there are many Islamic centers, or a number of Islamic centers, that will not make the Muslim people in the valley to come and use the Simi Valley and commute all that way to come and use the Simi Valley. I'm an adjunct professor, ESL adjunct professor at East LA College and an instructor at Cal State University. So I want to give back to the community. I want to teach the youth. I want to help them. But unfortunately, we don't have that much space because the area is just divided by curtains. So each one is listening to the other, and it's a kind of a chaos inside. So I believe that our youth and kids do deserve a bigger space to practice and to know more about the religion, and especially the youth when they're having their events, the Toastmasters, the feeding the homeless, and all of the other events that the youth do. On Friday, I make sure, like everyone, drive safely around, not because of this school in particular, but every one of us is very considerate when driving around schools around the city or anywhere. It doesn't have to be only the school. My daughter used to go to Valley View Middle School. I see a lot of parents being pulled over by the police because they do a lot of violations, but we never had any during Friday prayers. And because we finish, don't forget that we finish at 1:45 and school finishes at 2:35. So there is no way that we do have an issue with the parking or a problem, giving a problem to the schools. That's one thing. So, of course, I support the expansion, and I hope you consider our demands. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm looking for a Saeed Shifa, who was
Good evening. I think one of the benefits of being the final speaker is that everybody before me already said what I wanted to cover. So I'll keep this quick. I'm a resident here in Simi Valley. One of the hallmarks of our country is the timeless words of the Founding Fathers and the Declaration of Independence about that human beings have been endowed by their Creator with unalienable rights, that among them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And then they continue on in the preamble to discuss that we, the people, in order to form a more perfect union, do establish justice and establish domestic tranquility. That, that the hallmarks, that the overarching aims of law is to kind of establish domestic tranquility and allow people to pursue their happiness. And for us to look at over the course of the 244 years of our country's history, there's been so many government departments established, Department of Interior to protect national parks, and local municipalities to establish city parks, etc., in order for human beings to have this ability to have a quality of life, to have a sense of a fulfillment in their lives, and to have a sense of repose and tranquility and fulfillment. And one of the interesting things that struck me is recently the CDC released statistics that said one of the leading causes of death in 2018 was suicide, and that the rate of suicide is increasing. So if you look at between 1999 until today, the rates of suicide increased by 35%. That last year there was 47,000 people who took their lives. And to me, I often think, you have the most wealthy country in human history who has access to all the material pleasure, access to all the provisions, access to all the recreational activities in order to give you that quality of life, but still, for some people, there's something missing. Today, we're here to talk about an Islamic center, a center whose purpose is to provide an outlet for the community, irrespective of whatever ethnic background, irrespective of whatever socioeconomic background, irrespective of whatever age demographic you come from, to provide a sense of meaningfulness in your life, a sense of fulfillment, a sense of spiritual repose, And the request is just to make the facilities conducive for its constituents. And when we look at that, even today, if we were to take today as an example, like the number of people in this room has kind of surpassed the logistical, offerings of the room, and so we have an overflow room in the back. Imagine if hypothetically there was a request if we can have an overflow room upstairs so that people can watch through a screen, just to make it easier for them. Similarly, if you walk into the mosque on a Saturday, or on a Sunday when they have the school programs, there's like partitions, and there's multiple, lectures happening at the same time. So the request is just, this center that seeks to be a hub for spiritual repose for the community, just to make the logistical offerings more conducive for its constituents. And I just wanted to say that if you look at some of the concerns that were brought up, it's not unique to Simi Valley. I'm a high school teacher in Northridge, and the school that I teach at, Highland Hall Waldorf School, is right next to Balboa Magnet School, so you have two schools. If you come on Balboa Boulevard, if you go southbound around school dismissal time, you have two schools dismissing at the same time, and the right lane gets completely blocked out, So you have that issue. If you go to Islamic Center Reseda, it's right across the street from Reseda High School, And all these other institutions and their local community has been able to make it work. So I'm confident that here we'll make the right decision and support this movement to allow the Islamic Center to have its adequate logistical offerings for its community. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, though that was the last speaker, there are 50 cards submitted who did not wish to speak that are opposed to the project, and their names will be written into the record. And there are 161 speaker cards in support that did not wish to speak, and their names will be also entered into the record.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Stratus, desire to respond to any of the comments?
Thank you, Mayor Mashburn. I just want to, again, for clarification, the City Council, again, is not approving the project tonight. It's just whether or not for this proposal to be submitted as a formal application. And as such, that's the staff recommendation tonight, to allow the applicant to proceed with a formal application. If the City Council were to concur with that recommendation, then all the necessary analysis, whether it's for shared parking or traffic study or traffic memo, would be evaluated at that time. We have not done that at this time. The purpose of tonight's meeting was to highlight the need for a general plan amendment. The city, as Simi Valley in general, does not amend the general plan that often. And this project came along at an opportune time where it gives us an opportunity to fix an inconsistency on this lot. And I can tell you, a lot of our parks are zoned or designated incorrectly. In the general plan, they have a land use designation of park, but the zoning doesn't match up with it. It should be a park zoning. So when we update our housing element in 2020, 2021, that might be something we want to consider, fixing this inconsistency throughout the city when it comes to our park designations. Clearly, this property has never been part of the park, and that's another thing I wanted to clarify, in the sense that it has the designation, but it's been used as American Legion Hall since 1966, before the city was a city. Those were the main items I wanted to highlight. Anything else?
I would just like to clarify that the building is 2 stories, not 3. The dome is over the worship area.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this time would the applicant like to have anything to say?
What? Mayor and the councilman, thank you for listening to us. I'm talking about everybody, against and in the favor. But I'm here to tell you that we will work with the planning department to make sure we comply all the requirements when we bring you the project next for your review. And we will not cut corners for our studies. If we need to do any studies, we will comply with it, with this traffic study. And as we have heard some concerns from the opposition, we want to mitigate those concerns as working with the city. Thank you very much. Hopefully we'll hear the good decision from you. Thank you.
Okay, so at this time, the public hearing portion is closed. No more comments from the public. At this time, the council have any comments or questions to staff?
I have some comments, if now's appropriate. I do think we need to treasure our houses and places of worship. And so I am appreciative that there's a desire for this place of worship to be more comfortable for its congregants. And I think that it's important that we support worship throughout our community in whatever form that we can. And I'm aware that in this instance, the reality is it will stay and be a house of worship whether or not the zoning is granted. And what this does is it makes it easier for a proper facility to be built. And more specifically, to allow appropriate parking that doesn't require, if it stays as a residential as it is, there would be some more parking issues. So possibly this could help make parking better if we grant this general plan variance, general plan amendment, excuse me. I do want it to be conditioned, though, that it be restricted to worship or assembly of worship. That's my desire, because I think that is how it's being used, and I want it to be preserved for that use. So if it is rezoned, I don't want it to somehow be sold and become a billiards hall or whatever. I would like it to stay a house of worship. And later on, maybe at 9, I'm going to discuss about the inconsistencies in fixing some of the mapping elements, but that's later on.
Councilmember,
yes.
If you don't mind.
Sure.
We're talking about pre-screening right now.
Correct.
Conditions are way down the road.
And I appreciate that.
Okay.
I guess I just want to be on the record that I desire. You're correct. You're absolutely correct. You can't,
Okay,
I
good.
can't condition this point. Okay,
Mr.
fair
Mayor,
enough.
if I could, I'd like to move staff's recommendation approving the project. Go forward.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second, and I'll call for the vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Now remember, I got to give the disclaimer. This is really and truly just the beginning. You're going to have to go through the whole planning process. We'll be talking to staff. I think we all heard loud and clear that traffic is a major problem. It's a major problem, like one of the speakers said, at every school in the city. And we need to address the traffic problem, and I certainly hope that you folks will help us with that as we go forward with this. And I trust that the Environmental Services Director will have some wonderful ideas on how to help the traffic issues near the corner of Tapo and Township.
Which, if I could add, are attributed, having spent 12 years of dropping children off there, it's attributed to the baseball diamonds, to the schools. It is not just one cause of the traffic. So it needs to be studied together how we can make that community safer for everyone. But that doesn't change what needs to happen here.
Thank you.
Let's take 5 while the room clears. Yeah, we'll take 5 while the room clears. Okay, we'll start the meeting.
All right, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, the next item on the agenda is item 5. This is a time for public statements on all items other than public hearings, appointments, and informational reports. Speaker will be called in the order in which the cards were received, and they have 3 minutes to speak. The yellow light comes on, the speakers have 30 seconds to conclude their comments. City Council members cannot respond to your questions during this time, however, may offer a response to the extent possible under Agenda Item 5A. Mr. Mayor, we have 3 speaker cards this evening. Doug Bamforth, and if Lori Sheridan is still here, and Janet Murphy.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I was only going to talk about one thing, but now I'll talk about 2. I can squeeze in what I was. Part of the problems of the city is, and it keeps coming up, is when this city was laid out, it was never laid out to hold this many people. I remember back, I've been here over 50 years, and they said at the time, the absolute tops of this city was going to be 75,000 people. And then slowly it crept along. And of course, in California, there is no public transportation. Everybody has to use a car. School times are the plague of the city. I call it the invasion of the soccer moms. Everybody has one kid, and they got a big SUV, and they got to rush as fast as they can to drop them off here, pick them up, drop them off there, and it's like, after like 2 p.m. in the afternoon, you don't want to journey out. But all that aside, I think that's the root of a lot of these problems. There's just too much traffic, and people drive too fast. Even crossing guards, as we know, unfortunately, we've lost them, and I don't know what the answer is myself. But what I wanted to talk to you about is during the fire season, I came in here and I made a suggestion, and it had to do with the city setting up a telephone line so that when people, wherever they were at work or whatever, if they heard the fires were near Simi, they should double check with the city, not tie up the 911 number, but check with the city and find out what the latest is. I don't know if you remember that, but it was somewhat received, and then, I don't know, maybe it went off the deep end. Maybe it went into the round file. I don't know. But I think it's something that we need to look into, because there is going to be the next fire season. As you see, the hills are green, everything starts growing. Whatever grows is going to burn. And I'm getting close to my time. And anyway, I think that's something that, and I don't like to harp on people about it, but it's been a while now, and I haven't heard anything. And I don't want to turn into a gadfly, but it's just something that I think that should be done so that those who work outside the city, if they're worried, because their kids are here, but they're outside the city, and it'd be good for them to be able to check where the fires are at and what the conditions are. And all they have to do is call this number. They can do it from their cell phone, and it should be updated like instantly. And that's it. My little light's up.
You ran the red light. Thank you, Doug.
Before I begin, I'd like to just make note of the Jewish community's complete support for the improvement of the Islamic Society. On Saturday night, there was an event at the Brandeis Bardin Institute at American Jewish University here in Simi Valley on racism, its history, its ties to the housing crisis, and its effects here in Simi Valley. It was a well-publicized event, headlined by Tim Weiss, a well-known speaker on diversity and racism, and it ended with a panel of Simi citizens discussing racism and bias at the local level through shared experiences. I'm sad and disappointed to say that only one city council member was present at this event. Thank you, Councilmember Luevanos. This event had direct implications for Simi Valley. We've become known as a city with a racism problem, beginning with the Rodney King trial and continuing all the way to the SB 54 debacle that made national headlines. Unfortunately, whether we want to acknowledge it or not, people across the country recognize Simi for its racism. I have sat here through many city council meetings and listened as marginalized communities have spoken about their treatment. Indeed, I have spoken on this topic as a Jew living in Simi. I would never equate my experience to those of people of color. Indeed, people look at me and they see white. Until I mention I'm a Jew, they assume no difference between us. Even so, I've been marginalized and my faith diminished and degraded at the hands of Simi Valley citizens before, and I've spoken to you all about it. However, that's still nothing compared to the way that Simi has marginalized people of color and other underserved communities, including the homeless, many of which are veterans whom we all claim to love and support. By all accounts, approximately 25% of the homeless population here in California. The way the council reluctantly, at threat of lawsuit only, approves housing projects that would provide additional housing opportunities, by allowing people to shout racist epithets at city council meetings previously, by allowing our veterans, especially veterans of color, to be underserved and allowing those who say not in my backyard to create the fear that providing affordable housing to the homeless and underserved communities that it would increase crime and drive down property values. Values is the word I'm going to address now. Because while I don't know about the other 3 members of the City Council, I know at least the mayor was at the Republican Values Center on Saturday, where people proudly wore MAGA hats and embraced the racist policies of the current administration, while on the other side of town there was a discussion happening on how to combat racism and bias in our community instead of embracing it. In a city that's known for both casual and overt racism and bias, I would think the council would embrace the opportunity to learn new techniques on how to defeat racism in Simi. And yet only Councilmember Luevanos was there. We witnessed casual racism just tonight when a non-Spanish speaker asked Councilmember Luevanos to reach out to Spanish speakers. See? So I will end with a word of thanks to you and an admonition that I've delivered before. The council needs to lead our city by example. It's up to white people to fix racism. After all, we caused it. And the city needs to see that you all care even a little bit about our reputation and solving real problems here. We have real problems, and it's your responsibility to work to fix them or to be voted out. Thank you.
Is Janet Murphy still here?
She is.
Okay.
Hi, good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Janet Murphy, or Janet Talarigo Murphy. For the past 30 years, I have lived with my family in Simi Valley's sister city, the city of Moore Park. Before that, I lived in Simi Valley for 25 years. I grew up on Catherine Street, went to the public schools, graduated from Simi High, and like many of you, always a pioneer. Maybe 3 of you, I'm not sure. I still have deeply personal connections to Simi High and to Simi Valley. I married Dave Murphy, who also was a graduate from Simi High. He in the 70s, me in the 80s, but actually he was Mr. Pioneer and ASB president. After graduating from college, he became a teacher and coach
at Simi Valley High School. He retired after 38 years of public service. Our 3 daughters were born in Simi Valley. 2 of our 3 daughters graduated from Simi High, and currently our eldest daughter works at Simi High as a teacher and with the athletic programs. I have 4 grandsons, and 2 of them live in Simi Valley. 1 is attending public schools. Why do I tell you my personal history? We all have something, right? I really care overall for the well-being of the city. I really do. It's not just for my family and many dear lifelong friends, but those that enjoy visiting and living in this beautiful valley. I have many issues that I care about, and I'm actively involved with many that extend beyond the sphere of Simi Valley, like the Santa Susana Field Lab, also known as Rocketdyne. As most know, the unfortunate 30-year battle for a safe and comprehensive cleanup continues to this day. The SSFL issues have actually migrated down to our ground and well water that is contaminating our drinking water. A for-profit water company provides a mixture that includes groundwater and sells it to 30% of Simi Valley residents. Also includes many public schools and parks drinking water. At a September 2018 City Council meeting, concerned residents, many young mothers, had the courage to speak out, and they asked this council, or the City Council at the time, to place the for-profit water company, Golden State Water, issue to be placed on the agenda. That night, the council also expressed their concerns too. And you, Mayor Mashburn, firmly stated that it would be placed on a later agenda item. And then you kindly thanked the mothers for speaking out. Well, that was well over a year ago, and that has yet to be placed on the agenda. Okay, on this year, January 29th, I sent an email to the city and to Mayor Mashburn respectfully requesting that Golden State Water Company and the groundwater issue be placed on the city's agenda. I did not receive a reply yet, so I am here now to publicly request that it gets placed on the agenda as soon as possible. And why not consider consolidating the water system so all the Simi waters is controlled by Simi Valley and part of the public system? I'm submitting copies of my email agenda request for each of you, and that is it for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was our last speaker. And Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, the next item on the agenda is 5A, City Council comments regarding public statements. Mr. Mayor, please begin 5A.
Okay, 5A.
Can I respond?
Do you want to start?
Can I?
Sure.
May I? Thank you. Mr. Banforth, thank you for coming. I want to acknowledge that you did mention the telephone line being set up for emergencies, and I do know that a lot of people, they rely on the cell phones and the Nixle and the push-out messaging that way, but I know for myself, I'm one of those people, like you said, who works outside the city but has children here. And the only reason I knew that there was a fire near my house was because someone called me and said there's a fire near your house, and I left work, and literally there was the fire at a block from my house. So I agree. I think, I know we have the Nixle system. I know we have, Twitter and all those things. But again, if it wasn't for the phone call that I had received from a friend, I wouldn't have known. So I agree with you, and I do concur with Mr. Banforth that we do need to have a dedicated phone line, especially for, we do have, hard of hearing and deaf residents as well as blind residents, to which this would provide a great service. So I don't think it would be that difficult. I know the school district doesn't. We could collaborate with them on having a dedicated phone line so that people, and it could be in multiple languages as well, would know if there is an emergency. We have had power shutdowns. We do have fire season here. There's a number of items that occur. So I agree, Mr. Banforth, and I will be following up. And I will ask City Manager to follow up.
I can remember, we do have a dedicated phone number for that purposes. The number is 805-583. I'll give it to you. 6796.
You're not old, Doug.
Can we put that on a banner on the website?
We can. We certainly can put it on the website so there's some more available, but we do have that. We We do use it in emergency purposes. Oftentimes, things happen faster in an emergency than we're able to update, so we do the best we can to keep it updated.
This is the first I hear of the phone, so thank you for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely.
805.
583 6796.
Thank you.
You're
That's a bit bad during the fire season, so that people can call that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, other comments on public statements?
Public statements. Actually, I just, I don't know if I want to comment or not, but I think I should. The concern about racism in the community and the lack of attendees Saturday night. I was attending my son's wedding out of the area, so I want you to know that that was not right. I wasn't there. I think it's a worthy cause, but at the same time, I think that I don't know that the council all knew about this event. To be completely fair, I don't know that we knew about it, and that would have influenced our attendance, I'm sure. As a mother of 5 adopted children, 2 of which are Hispanic, my eldest daughter who's married to a Ghanaian, whom they've lived here for a year, we have found a very embracing community. And it's not perfect, I know that, and we need to work together. But I just want to reiterate that I think that there is always room for improvement. But I think that we strive as a council for the betterment of this community as a whole. And so keep coming, giving your suggestions for improvements, but let's work together. Thoughts?
Good. Dee Dee?
Ms. Murphy, just in regards to the SSFL, I thought I saw something on the county supervisor's website that they're going to have a meeting or be talking about that?
This Thursday.
This Thursday?
Yes, there's a meeting this Thursday
Yeah.
at 6:30 at the Simi Cultural Arts Center.
Okay.
You were going to mention it. So, yes.
I was going to say, I thought I had it on my calendar.
Yes.
Okay, very good. So that way everyone knows if anyone else in the community is interested.
As far as the Santa Susana Field Lab goes, 2 things. One, as long as I can remember, this council has been encouraging the cleanup. No one's ever spoke out against the cleanup. One of the issues is it's not our jurisdiction, so it's the state and the federal government, and the field lab's not in Simi Valley, so it's not a lack of caring, what have you. I do hear loud and clear. I've been up there several times now on tours and what have you, and discussions. But the bottom line is we certainly want it cleaned up. There's no getting around that. Now, are they doing it quick enough? No. Can we make them do it quicker? No. We'd love to be able to, but that's not something we can do. When it comes to Golden State Water, I'd just like to point out that since I'm not sure it was you or not, but for like the year or more now, I have said that I'll go with anybody and we'll take a sample from Golden State Water and we'll take it to an independent lab. I've never been taken up on that offer. And I put that out constantly because whether there's a problem or not, I don't know. And I'm just being honest with you, I'm not a water technician and testing person and what have you, but it just drives me crazy that there's people living in our city in fear that the water is bad. So let's go find out what the problem is and address it. So I'll be happy to say tonight when we get to 9B, I'll say let's put it on the agenda to discuss it. However, I'm a little bit concerned about what we can really do short of we can't go out and buy the Golden State Water. That's a whole other issue.
And Mr. Mayor, that's your 90 seconds.
And now the legal advice is to shut up. So, but we will put it on the agenda.
I will note it did come up at the last council meeting to place Golden State Water on the agenda with a discussion regarding Golden State, and we indicated we'll discuss what Ojai did to purchase their water system. So it's we will be preparing an item to come back.
And thanks for being a Simi High.
Mr. Mayor, I did want to touch on I always like this because I always hear it. And it's one of those things we have to debunk every once in a while, and that's the Rodney King trial in Simi Valley. In 1992, 93, I'm not positive when that happened. The building that's right over there next to our senior center was a brand-new Ventura County Superior Courthouse, brand new, in 1992. That building was chosen so that the trial for the 4 police officers could be handled outside the jurisdiction of Los Angeles, as to give it a more, venue that would be not so tainted. In other words, something where they could go out and get jurors that weren't part of the city of Los Angeles, so that what they get is a more fair juror pool. Of the juror pool they claimed for that trial in Ventura County Superior Courthouse, the brand new one, by the way, were 2 people, 2, from the city of Simi Valley. 2. So this myth that you've been hearing all this time about this innate racism in Simi Valley is just that, a myth. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Now it's time for the clerk to tell us what it's time for.
All right, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the next item on the agenda is the consent calendar, item 6. There are no resolutions for consideration tonight, and staff is available for any questions.
Motion?
I move to approve the consent calendar.
I'm sorry?
Second.
Oh, okay, now I know what you
I move to approve the consent
said.
calendar, yes.
Okay, call for the vote.
Motion passes unanimously. All right, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, there are no items to consider under continued business, item 7. The next item will be agenda item 8A, new business, an adoption of a resolution authorizing the submission of an application to the California Department of Housing and Community Development for funding under the Cal Home Program. The resolution is as follows. Resolution number 2020-06, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley authorizing the submission of an application to the California Department of Housing and Community Development for funding under the Cal Home Program. And we have Eric Chen here for this presentation.
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn and City Council members. Before you tonight is a request from the Affordable Housing Subcommittee to adopt a resolution authorizing the submission of an application to the State Department of Housing and Community Development, or HCD, to apply for a $2.4 million Cal Home Program fund. The Cal Home Program is one of HCD's neighborhood stabilization tools, providing competitive awards to help the city fund programs, including rehabilitation of aging homes. Should the city successfully secure the funds, this award will be dedicated toward the Home Rehabilitation Assistance Program. The Home Rehab Program provides low interest rate loans up to $50,000 per qualified low-income household. Eligible activities would include repair or reconstruction of owner-occupied single-family detached homes, intended to remedy threats to health and safety, corrections of building code violations, create or improve handicap accessibility, and revitalize neighborhoods. Considering the city's aging housing stock, where 80% of total single-family detached homes are beyond 30 years of age, it is estimated that 25% of Simi Valley households with deferred home improvements could potentially qualify for this program. Staff will further evaluate the feasibility of providing a limited number of loans to potentially fund construction and/or rehabilitation of accessory dwelling units. Staff will return to City Council with a revised home rehabilitation program policies and procedures manual for the City Council's consideration. Therefore, it is recommended that the City Council adopt a resolution authorizing the submission of an application to HCD for funding under Calhoun program. This concludes the presentation, and staff is available for questions.
I'd just like to point out one thing as a subcommittee member, is that the only question that I can recall was I wanted to find out the effect that this would have on staff's workload. And I was advised by Mr. Chen that there would be no additional work really and truly because everything's already in place. There's like no need to hire additional staff, and that they're prepared to handle these loan requests as they come in. So from that standpoint, it was pretty easy to come up with a vote to support.
Mr. Mayor,
May I
I move
ask
to
a
adopt the
quick question?
resolution authorizing the submission of an application to the California Department of Housing and Community Development for funding under the Calhoun program.
Mayor, may I ask a question?
And I'd like to ask a
Thank you.
question, too.
On the bottom of the first page where it says it's for the rehabilitation of owner-occupied single-family detached dwellings, is there going to be any requirement that they live there? I guess my concern is that people are going to, buy a home, fix it up, and, I know there's always concern about what is the requirement for owner-occupied?
Yes, owner occupancy must be 10 months out of the 12 months within a year, and they must own the property. And should they refi or sell the property, they have to repay the city back.
Okay, what about people with reverse mortgages?
They do not qualify.
Okay, thank you. That answered my question.
Thank you.
Councilmember Lister.
Thank you. I'm just trying to, one, be sure I understood, because as I read, the use is to help people with low income, et cetera, to fix up crumbling homes. But as I read what the actual Cal Homes program is, it appears the funds are almost specifically to be used for additional dwelling units, junior dwelling units, or shared home to allow, so that, I'm trying to understand, can it be used for simply crumbling, or does this program specifically allow for building of additional dwelling?
Well, the Calhoun program has many different elements to it. Among them would include the rehab program. And the city have been operating the rehab program for many, many years. And
So you've had that for a while. So this,
yes.
Right, and I understand that. And I guess as I read this additional grant, it looked like it had to be specifically for additional dwelling unit construction or improvement.
No, that is another part of the Calhoun that we could potentially consider looking into.
Okay, but not specific. Okay, thank you.
Correct.
One more quick question. Will this be advertised in multiple languages like Spanish, Tagalog, Arabic?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful.
Yes, and if I remember, they can't exclude, but they can kind of target this area first with the advertising for it.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so.
I move to adopt a resolution authorizing the submission of an application to the California, I will second, Council.
Okay,
I
we
will
have
second the motion.
Motion second. Call for the vote.
Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, the next item on the agenda is item 9A, City Council member reports.
All right, Councilmember Lister.
I'll turn my mic on. Thank you, Mayor. Just a few items that I'd like to bring to attention. On January 29th, there was a homeless point-in-time count that was conducted by the Ventura County Continuum of Care Alliance, and although I had signed up to do that, my husband and son completed my assignment for me, but I will tell you it was a very worthwhile endeavor, and hopefully soon you'll have the results to know exactly a more accurate picture at that one point in time on January the 29th. On January the 31st, I attended the Simi Valley Chamber of Commerce's 2020 Salute to Excellence Luncheon, and I'd like to commend the many outstanding recipients who were very deserving, and I know others were in attendance. It was a very well-done event. On Monday, February the 3rd, I had the opportunity to visit with the city manager, Brian Gabler, and laundry list of things we discussed, and I appreciate his efforts in many different directions. Thank you. On Tuesday, February 4th, I represented the city and the mayor at the Simi Valley Ed Foundation Teacher of the Month Award that was just held, and the recipient was Rochelle White, who is a social studies history department teacher at Valley View Middle School and doing some outstanding things there, and so commend her and others who do so much for our students. On Thursday, February the 6th, I attended my first meeting as a delegate to the SCAG Energy and Environment Policy Committee, and that was certainly a very informative meeting to attend, and I know that I'm going to be looking forward to attending it with regularity. Many things I could mention from that meeting, but the one that I thought I should quickly discuss possibly is some of the information that came out about public safety power shutoffs, as our community was particularly affected by it. There was a discussion about the governor's proposed state budget, which it includes a 4.75 climate resilience bond, and much of that, and some of that is going to be used to harden critical community infrastructure with regards to 500 million of that. And so I hope that we can get our fair share. SB 45, Wildfire Prevention, Safe Drinking Water, Drought Preparation, Flood Protection Bond Act. A little more information about it. It's projected 175 million in grants to incentivize installation of microgrids, distributed generation storage systems, or in-home backup power systems, etc. And I know we experienced quite a bit of disruption. I'm hoping that when this becomes official, that we can grab our fair share and use it. I can think of many things our city could benefit: backup power generation, et cetera, that could be very helpful. And it also includes $395 million for establishment of cooling centers, clean air centers, hydration stations, emergency shelters, backup solar power and storage, et cetera. Anyway, again, I'm hoping that we can, if and when that comes about, can garner our fair share of that, so that we can have our community better prepared for these power shutoffs that were so disruptive for our community. But anyway, many great things was found at that meeting, and I'll enjoy reporting. I should mention that on Saturday, February the 8th, my son, Robert Litzter, married Devin Zobrist in the state of Nevada, and it was a glorious event, and so I now picked up a new daughter-in-law. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Councilmember Luevanos.
I don't have a lot of events that I attended, because the last weekend of January, first weekend of February, I was at winter camp with 200 Boy Scouts from all over, all the way as far as Orange County. So we did get to let us know. So it was fun, and it's always fun for me as an elected official to do sign-offs for the Boy Scouts who need it for their ranking up. On Wednesday, February 5th, I met with City Manager Brian Gabler to get updates on what's happening in the city. On Thursday, February 6th, I attended the Clean Power Alliance meeting. There was a number of issues that were happening in terms of default notices. A lot of cities are changing their default notices according to the new, the 2016 California law, AB 1110, which is now being implemented, which redefines greenhouse gas free energy and how that is defined and the impact that it has. A lot of cities are opting up because of the significant greenhouse gas emissions with regard to whether or not you do lean power, which is 36%, clean power, which is 50%, or 100% renewable. Currently, our city is at lean power. That's default rate. But anyone at any time can pick any other rate, but I would ask the city to consider, and I will ask for it, I don't know if it's an 9B request or not, to consider our default rate going up to clean. So that's 50%. If residents want to opt out of it, they can still opt down to the lean. But I think once people see what the impact is of the greenhouse gas emissions, and we did vote as a Clean Power Alliance Board of Directors to opt out of nuclear energy, so there will be no nuclear energy that is used by the Clean Power Alliance, so it will all be clean energy. But looking at other cities that are comparable, like Downey, that has a lower income, and they have opted into clean. We are one of only 8 cities in the Clean Power Alliance that has default to lien. So we would allow people the option to opt out if they wanted to, but our default rate would increase and help us not have so many power shutdowns, not have so many wildfires, and have a positive impact on the environment in our community and the world. So I'll be asking for that item and 9B for council to consider. On Friday, February 7th, I met with City Attorney Lonnie Eldridge to see what was discussed in closed session, upcoming litigation. On Saturday, February 8th, I did attend the anti-racism event up at Brandeis University, and I'd never been to the Book of Job facility, which if you've never been up there, it's pretty amazing. House of Book, yes, it's way at the top and pretty close, an adventure, especially at night. But it's a really cool venue, so if you ever need a venue, I highly recommend Brandeis University. The two events that are coming up that and I also, on Saturday, I also attended the Simi Valley Library Festival of Books. It was really, really fun. They had authors of young reader books that were there, including one that was about a princess and a peanut allergy. And for anyone who has dealt, like I had to deal with scouts who have peanut allergies, airborne peanut allergies, to be able to explain it by a princess who was allergic to peanuts was pretty cool. So, and I always encourage, we're also library board of trustees, so it's wonderful for us to support our library and the events that happen there. It was free. There were arts and crafts. There were books, authors. There was Michael from Ninja Tunes that was there, and he gave a free art lesson, and kids got capes, and they all dressed up like superheroes, and it's really cool. Please, and I posted a bunch of events that are happening at the library. We have stuff from little ones all the way up to senior citizens and teens and everything in between, even a virtual reality activity that's happening in February. So follow the Simi Valley Library. We have amazing programs and volunteers there. So I give them many, many props. On two events that are upcoming this Thursday, the 13th, I want to mention our Task Force for Homelessness is happening at 3:30 at the Simi Valley Library. Everyone is welcome to attend. Please attend. I know some people mention homelessness as an issue. And the same day, Thursday, February 13th, this Thursday, we also have at 6:30 the meeting at regarding Santa Susana Field Lab cleanup at the Simi Valley Cultural Arts Center, and I encourage you all to attend. And I hope you all have a wonderful 3-day President's Day weekend, a wonderful Valentine's, and African American History Month. And we have a great display at the library on that as well. Thank you. That's my report.
Okay.
Well, mine's going to be real short. I had a lot of work and family obligations, so didn't attend a whole lot of things in the last couple of weeks. The one thing I did have on my calendar was canceled, but I did want to congratulate Michelle Savage on her 25 years as with Simi PD. Michelle and I played softball together when I was young and still able to do that. She also was one of the first ones to start B2B here in Simi, and I was involved with that too. We had a Ventura County team, so it was Simi PD, Ventura DAs. We had a couple Oxnard officers and such. It was a lot of fun. So Michelle's done a lot of good things for this department, so it was really nice to see her honored tonight. So thank you, Chief. I have a couple of committee meetings this week, and I will be reporting on them at the next meeting, and I'm planning on attending Thursday for the SSFL. So I'll see you there. That's it for me.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On Tuesday, January 28th, I attended the luncheon at Vista Real Public Charter School. It was a meet and greet. It was a very interesting meeting because it taught me a lot about that public charter school. Apparently this is a place where if your child is having problems in school and needs more of a one-on-one type of education, this is a great place for that type of a learner. Also, it is also available for summer schools and other things to help kids catch up on their credits they need for graduation. They did express a lot of interest in attending our youth summits and stuff like that, so I did pass along Kristen's information to them so they can make sure they can get in there. Thursday, January 30th, I attended the Affordable Housing Subcommittee with Mayor. On Friday, January 31st, I also attended the Simi Valley Chamber of Commerce 2020 Salute to Excellence, and I want to congratulate all the recipients of the awards. Well deserved. On Thursday, February 6th, I attended the SCAG Regional Council and Transportation Committee in Los Angeles, and I did send through the city manager of the council a PowerPoint that was given to us by the guy doing the bullet train for the state of California. It was a very interesting PowerPoint. One of the comments he made, which may or may not come to fruition, was that you'll be able to buy your first ticket from Los Angeles to San Francisco by the year 2028. We'll see. They have not acquired the right-of-ways yet, but it's a very ambitious statement. On Friday, February 7th, I attended VCTC meeting in Camarillo. VCTC meeting was dominated that day by mostly talk of an interesting Camarillo situation. Camarillo's got something going on with the airport there, and it's more of a battle of who does what there, and VCTC voted to stay out of it, basically. So that's where we are on that. That's the end of my report.
Okay, on Monday, January 27th, I had received several letters from students at Sinaloa Middle School asking different questions about the city and what's being done in certain areas and what have you. And I looked at the stack of letters and I went, oh no, because I like to answer everybody. I go, I'm in trouble. So I contacted the school and we set up basically an assembly. And I went to the school and talked to the students, which was great. And we had discussions. I tried explaining from my standpoint what answers to their questions and roadblocks to some of the things they'd like to see. Bottom line is what the students there were really concerned about is traffic, homelessness, and economic development. And they talked a lot about the youth council because there were some youth council members there. So it was a really good discussion. And I have to say that very concerned about the speed limit on Royal, basically from Sycamore all the way down to Madera. And in particular, the area near the school, Sinaloa, and the left turn issues that are there. So they've really done their homework and brought up some great points, and we're concerned about, like I said, the traffic mainly in front of the school, but also homelessness and economic development. Wednesday, January 29th, I was at the Wood Ranch Country Club. No, I do not play golf. Working on some projects that will be coming to their facility where they'll be working with environmental services to do the right thing for their golf course and for the residents around the golf course. On Thursday, January 30th, I was at the Affordable Housing Subcommittee. We just voted on that, so you probably know where that went. I also, on the 31st, went to the Chamber Salute to Excellence. I, too, congratulate the recipients. They were excellent. I had a meeting with the Kathy Van Etten and Brian Reed. Brian's the chair or the president of the board for the chamber, and of course Kathy is the CEO of the chamber, and we just kind of had a get to know each other talk because Brian's just taken the reins as president and moving forward. So I made sure that they realize the door is always open, your doors are always open, and for them not to hesitate to contact us at any time. On Tuesday, February 4th, went to the RDP 21 meeting in Ventura. Thank you very much. 7 o'clock in the morning, Ventura, once a month. Had a talk by a gentleman named Commander Jason, and I'm going to mutilate his name, Saglimbine. And he is the chief test pilot of the unit which the U.S. Navy refers to as VX-30, Air T-Vron 30. VX-30 is a lot easier. What we need to know about this unit is that they have 40 officers working, 20 civilians, 80 contractors, private contractors, all in support of their 9 aircraft, which are they call them P-3s, C-130s, and a couple of Gulfstreams. And what their whole mission is flight testing new systems. So it's basically electronic. They load these airplanes up with all the new electronics, whatever they're going to put into, say, the Hornets and what have you, and they go out over the test range and test all of this equipment. And the only other real mission that they have is if there's going to be some kind of use of the test range where explosives are going to go into the ocean, what have you, they go out beforehand, fly very low level, and clear the area, literally looking for whales, porpoise, everything, and chase them out of the area so they're not in danger. And of course, fishermen and sailboats is the ones they usually end up with. It's a big deal to our county. I don't know how much in the Simi Valley, but it's jobs and testing, and it's a great asset. Thursday, February 6th, I met with David Menchaca, and we're discussing a first responder thank you ceremony from their football team at Simi High. And that's moving forward, and I think you'll see something like a pancake breakfast and what have you for first responders. Friday, February 7th, I met with civilian citizen Randy Van Duek and just had a nice discussion with him about the future projects in Simi Valley. He seems pretty much primarily interested in 5G. And but he has a very calm, professional approach to his opinions on 5G. A real pleasure to talk to him. And that's the end of my report. 9B, it's time for requests for future city council agenda items, and as I said earlier, I'm going to start just because I said it earlier, is that we want to put it on the agenda to discuss Golden State water, and probably in that discussion would be just water, drinking water in general for our entire community. And the other thing that I would like to bring up somewhere down the road, no urgency, but I'd like to see us, in the name of saving money for the city, I know that ICSC is an expensive convention to go to, and I have a difficult time thinking that the entire council needs to go every year. And so I would like to have a discussion with the council and discuss that maybe alternating years or something like that, just to try saving some money and make sure that we don't overdo it on our travel. And probably at the same time, it'd be a good time to look at our travel policies and who goes to what, how often, and make sure we're not duplicating everything. And make sure we're not overspending, just to take a look at ourselves and say, do we need to do this? If we do, we go. There's no problem there. And if we don't have to go every year, maybe make it every other year. But anyway, take a look at it and see what we think. Council members.
Mayor, I have two requests for 9B. The first one is, as I mentioned earlier, changing Simi Valley's CPA default rate up to, I'd like to have a discussion and possibly vote on whether or not we can change the default rate up to clean, which would be 50% renewable. We're currently at lean, we're one of only 8, so that's what I would request. And the second 9B request is, as we heard mentioned time and time again in the many public comments that we heard, and I asked for this over a year ago, when are we going to have a joint meeting between the Simi Valley Unified School District, Parks and Rec, and the city? Because the traffic issues, as you can see from just the issue we had tonight, which, we have a park nearby, we have 2 schools nearby, I mean, this is something that impacts all over the city. So we really need to have that joint meeting in terms of what are solutions that we can come up with jointly. There are 2 other entities here that serve the needs of the community, and I feel like we, the city, always are bearing the burden, and it's time that we work collaboratively together. I know these meetings used to exist. I asked for it over a year ago, And I'm still waiting for it.
We had one about 3 months ago, 3 months ago?
It's been a while.
Well, you and I were there.
Yeah. Yeah, we did have one a couple of months ago. How about if we just let the city manager come back to us and kind of come up with a rough schedule, and so we do it? I think it's important that I agree with you 100%. I think it's important that we meet, and I don't think the council needs to discuss it. We can just have the city manager.
Yeah, I think, if we pick topics and had a report out from whoever went, I don't think all 5 of us need to go, but just, again, we spent so much time this evening, and it's an issue that could have been resolved if we hadn't had that meeting.
Done.
We do have a Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem meeting with the Park District and School District. I believe it's in 2 weeks.
Cancel it.
Did we cancel it? Yeah, we're going to reschedule that meeting then. So I know there's one coming up amongst the chair and the vice chair of the 3 agencies. So we clearly have an item to discuss with them as a result of tonight's meeting.
Thank you. And that the information from that meeting will be shared out with the public somewhere?
Certainly.
It's also open.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it had to be
It's a public meeting.
Public meeting.
Okay,
Yeah.
do you know where it was posted? Because I had no.
It hasn't been posted yet because, well, apparently I missed my calendar, apparently got canceled, so. But it would be,
What would it be posted under? Because I couldn't even find it.
it would be posted under public meetings.
Should be on the website.
We can verify it. We'll make sure everyone gets
Okay.
notice of it.
Thank you, I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Now, and before the meeting, we'll send an email out to council members, see if there's any particular topics that they want covered as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
So one of the things arising from this evening, and maybe, I don't know if it needs to be, come back to us, but I do think it would be appropriate, particularly since the planning department is looking at their housing element next year and the year for the general plan. There are a lot of mapping inconsistencies, but particularly between the zoning and the general plan. And maybe if we could give them a mandate or encouragement to try to alleviate some of those inconsistencies, it could, it ultimately will make for better planning and better development, I think, in our community.
I think potential answer to that is we have a relatively new head of environmental services, and I've heard him bring that up numerous times.
So maybe I'm offering his support that we make that a priority. Maybe that's what I'm doing.
I think his backing him would be fine, but telling him to get with it, I don't think
No, I'm
would be
not trying to tell him to get with it. I'm
Because he's already
I'm
been
trying to be
bringing it up.
supportive of that effort and wondered if we need to discuss it as a council or whether it just.
We have some cleanup issues that environmental services will bring to, code cleanup issues that we're bringing to the council. And this is one of the other items to kind of clean up the other things. If it's part of the housing element or it's part of a separate item, we'll discuss it among staff, but there are some cleanup issues regarding mapping and some other similar items that we need to clean up, so.
Maybe if we had a timeline at least. I know we received a grant for funding for updating our housing element, so maybe if we had a timeline, 3 months, 6 months, a year or something.
Yeah, we can certainly communicate that out to council, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Okay, tonight's meeting, we're going to adjourn in memory of Margaret Casella. Margaret is the mother of Joe Casella, who is a longtime businessman here, and Margaret lived here in Simi Valley for a long time, and she passed away last week. Also adjourn in memory of Bob Chrisman. He too was a very long-time resident of Simi Valley, businessman. His business was pretty much over in the other valley, but was here for many years. And also Frances Lemos. And I didn't know her. I read some information about her. She was born here in Simi Valley in the 20s, and she recently passed away, and we just want to send our condolences to her family also. And with that,
Oh, Mr. Mayor, four of her sons were here for the 50th anniversary picture.
Yeah, great. And I think the city manager talked to one of them today, so that was good. So at any rate, we send our condolences, and meeting is adjourned.